It's Jim Dandy Day at Saratoga with a wide-open 3-year-old division there for the taking. Hall of Fame trainer Todd Pletcher has won this race 6 times. Today he makes a tweak with his 2-year-old champ, trying to win number 7. That would be Forte. The favorite for this year's Kentucky Derby had to scratch the morning of the race. He's back off his Belmont Stakes runner-up finish with blinkers on for the first time. Brad Cox pulled off a Jim Dandy Travers double 2 years ago with Essential Quality. He'll send out 3 runners, including Derby third-place finisher Angel of Empire. He's trying to turn the tables on Forte after a 4th-place finish in the Belmont. And the sprint champion is back. Elite Power just continues to win 7 straight and counting. Will the streak continue in today's Grade 1 Vanderbilt? All that more on a sensational Saturday here from the premier meet in the country at Saratoga. It's brought to you in part by America's Best Racing. For the love of the race, visit americasbestracing.net today. We expect a big crowd on hand for an important Saturday afternoon here at the most competitive meet there is in the sport, here in the Adirondacks in upstate New York. And we're just 8 minutes away from the first on the card. Hello, everybody. Great to have you with us here on Saratoga Live. I'm Greg Wolf. Horse Racing's Glamour Division, 3-year-olds taking center stage today with 3 different horses taking all 3 legs of this year's Triple Crown. Picture very unclear still to this point who is going to wind up being the champion in this division. Today, a very big stepping stone as to who will go favored into the premier race of this meet in the Travers in late August. We'll have that coming up, a preview of the Jim Dandy ahead. Today's action presented by Claiborne Farm. We'll get right after it with our Spendthrift Farm 2-year-old race of the day in the opener, the Vanderbilt Grade 1 older horses, including our sprint champion, Elite Power, going again against Gunite in a rematch. That's in the 8th, and then the Jim Dandy Grade 2 presented by DK Horse. You'll see that on Big Fox later this afternoon. With me on the desk, champion jockey Richard Migliori, New York Racing Association handicapper Sarah El-Badwi. Good to see you both on days like this. You feel it in the air, the energy, the electricity here at Saratoga.
You know what I love, Sarah, too? You're walking through the crowd, and everybody's talking about the 3-year-old division and the sprint division because of the Vanderbilt. And the 3-year-old division is so wide open at this point. These races like the Jim Dandy and the Midsummer's Derby, the Travers, take on even greater importance.
Well, and especially when you have such a divvied up kind of Triple Crown, you're still looking to solve that mystery of who will be champion 3-year-olds going forwards. And of course, we're a big part of that with today's Jim Dandy.
You can play all the action, of course, by getting signed up started with Naira Bets. Bet any track, anywhere, anytime. Play with all summer long at Saratoga and beyond. And this is the offer. New members get that $200 deposit match sign-up bonus. That's the code to punch in at sign-up. Spot 200. Again, right there at NairaBets.com. And we got a pick 5 to attack here right off the bat in our Spendthrift Farm 2-year-old race of the day. It's brought to you by Spendthrift Farm, home of North America's 4-time reigning champion General Sire Into Mischief. Quick look at the odds here. Maiden special weight, 1 1/16 on the turf to begin the Saturday card. And we'll kick things off getting a look at the field with Corruption, Hall of Famer Todd Pletcher, and Luis Saez.
Yeah, out of a mare that was all turf. Senior Prank, his half brother, won on debut. That was on dirt, though.
It's a big Friday for the Tom Morley barn. He's had 2 winners and a runner-up at 54-1.
Big day yesterday, looking to start things off the right way with this one, looking at Lucky. The dam, a 7-time winner on the dirt, so possibly a bit of a different pedigree.
Great story with Carson's Run we'll get into in a moment.
Yeah, terrific story. This is the first foal out of a mare that ran at lower levels. Good works, but no turf works.
This is Mike Maker, 3 Diamonds Farm with a 4 at 6-1.
A horse with some experience now getting to go long on the grass, rained off last time out at Horseshoe Indianapolis.
War fronts on the turf. Look out. Shug McGahee with 1 here with Frontline Warrior.
Yeah, out of Shamrock Rose, who won the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint. This one's got a turf work for Shug McGahee. Good pedigree.
Big warm-up for this George Weaver first-time starter with Manny Franco.
Can't ignore any horse that George Weaver is sending out. He does a little bit better with his turf sprinters than route runners, though. We'll see how this one does first time out.
And Todd Pletcher inside and outside with this one, who's the current favorite, Moonlighter, Rat Ortiz Jr.
Yeah, and this horse comes off a nice 5-furlong work. Looked like it was in company with the 1 Corruption. The mare has had 3 foals to try turf, 2 of them being winners on the grass.
Excited, everyone here for this Saturday card to get underway. We're just 4 minutes from the opener. Let's bring in Maggie Wolfendale.
And we'll start here with the Todd Pletcher duo who bookends the field, beginning with number 7, that's Moonlight. And he looks well suited to these conditions. You know, he's got a long tubular type of frame, has that turf hoof. Although being a son of Audible, he did sell for the $285,000 at the OBS April sale after working 21 flat. And I will say the good points about the work were that he wasn't asked that much, and it looked like he was going slower than that. So I always like to see that. It means that a horse is really covering a lot of ground with their stride. But he lingered on that inside lead quite a bit, watching his workouts here 2 back when he just went a slow 50 over the main track. He was reluctant to switch leads. We'll see. Maybe it doesn't happen when he's on the turf course. And 2, looking at him, he just looked a bit drab in his coat. And I know he's the one that's going to take more money because Irad Ortiz is in the irons, but I preferred number 1, Corruption, in here. He sold for $220,000 at the OBS sales after working 10 and 1. He was asked a bit, but he has a really nice extension. He has that nice fluid reaching stride, and he's beautiful. Maybe it's me just being wooed by one of my favorite sires of all time in Medaglia d'Oro, but look at him. He says that dun, da, da. And he's just kind of a relentless type. Watching his workout 3 back on the Oklahoma turf course, he was with an unraced workmate, and he's just kind of relentless. He feels like one that's just going to gallop all day long, but he was very, very well turned out back in the paddock and out on the racetrack. As we'll move on to number 3, that's Carson's Run here, as he sold at the OBS sales and worked 10 and 1, not asked for much, has a real quick, efficient type of stride to him. When he first walked in the paddock, I was joking around with one of Christoph's assistants, Jake, and he's like, ooh, maybe mine doesn't look that fit. I was like, I thought the same thing. And then when he kind of got out on track, he kind of tucked himself up a little bit more and looked a bit more athletic than what he did back in the paddock. That's why it's so important to watch them from paddock to track side. He's been very professional watching his workout. Last time, you know, it was interesting. He doesn't have any turf workouts, and he sat off of a 3-year-old maiden filly taking dirt. That was kind of, I was like, why are we making this horse take dirt if he's going to run in his next start on the turf? So that made me kind of scratch my head a bit because there is not much turf pedigree either. But looking at him, he has a minor turf hoof. I just thought it was a weird surface and distance to run him at first time out. As we'll look at number 6, Modica next, son of hard spuns, love them on the turf. This one, the dam is half to spun to run, Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile winner. So there's a bit more dirt pedigree. This is a bull of an animal. He is blocky, stocky, huge. He does not look like a 2-year-old. I mean, he looks more like a 3 turning 4-year-old than his young 2-year-old self here. But we'll see, he's pretty fit. He looks like one that would need to race into fitness. And with kind of Todd Pletcher, George Weaver, I'm not in love with their first-time starters when they show up wearing blinkers. And Modica is today. But again, a dangerous barn that could be effective.
Now let's get back to Carson's Run. You see the West Point Thoroughbred Silks, yellow and black with that black star on the back. That's Carson's Run, first-time starter here for Christophe Clement. Owned in part by West Point partner Wade Yost. He was a former classmate of Terry Finley at West Point, and this is his son, now 30 years old, Carson Yost. He was born with the same rare genetic disorder as Cody Dorman. We know that story, the young man who was Cody's wish is named after. He's confined to a wheelchair, has trouble communicating. Wade served in the Gulf War at West Point. Wade and his family doing a great job of drawing attention to the fact that many veterans who served overseas, it's been a proven link to many multi-symptomatic disorders in veterans who have served, and he wanted his son to just have an opportunity to be associated with an athlete. So this Carson's Run, running for Carson Yost, and I think everyone could get behind this story.
Man, it's such a touching story, you know, and especially on the heels of what we've seen with Cody Dorman and Cody's wish. This would be great if this turned out. And Terry Finley is such a patriotic guy. He attended West Point, and I'm sure he tried to pick out one that had a lot of ability to name in Carson's honor. You know, I'm sure they handpicked this one.
Yeah, really incredible story. Of course, one that we're all rooting for. Whether you're doing it with your wagering dollar, you're definitely doing it with your heart in this spot. And this is a horse that I think has a little bit of ability too. The sales work, little green at first, but once this horse got on track, finished up really nicely and seemed to be getting over that synthetic surface very well. So I wouldn't completely leave this one out of the mix. And of course, a story that we're all rooting for now going forwards.
And of course, we're still going to see later in the meet in the Whitney, Cody's Wish, named after Cody Dorman, as he changes divisions and tries to go after that Breeders' Cup Classic division when we see him line up in the Whitney, and he goes 1 1/8.
You know, he's just matured so much mentally as well as physically. You know, talking to Junior Alvarado about Cody's Wish, how when he was younger, he'd break a little slow and then almost get a little panicky and run off. And he really didn't have full control over him, so they were always reluctant to stretch him out. The last few starts, he said he has just matured so much, and he's just so much easier to ride that he really doesn't think the 1 1/8 and the 2 turns is going to be an issue.
Stepping onto the turf course, 1 1/16. This will be on the inner turf to kick off this tremendous Saturday card. Expected to get a little weather at some point this afternoon. We'll see when that happens. If that happens, we've been wrong before this meet.
I think the only thing harder to handicap the races here, Sarah, is to handicap the weather.
And I think that's the question that most people want to know more about. They don't care who I like in the race. They want to know if I think it's going to rain or not.
Fingers crossed. We'll see what happens. Todd Pletcher with this horse, the 1 at 4-1. That's Corruption. Luis Saez, and he has the favorite outside with Moonlight. The Audible. First-time starter with the meet's leading rider aboard, the 7, Arad Ortiz Jr.
Well, I wound up going with the 1-horse Corruption of the 2 from the Todd Pletcher barn. I like the fact that this horse sports 4 turf works up here at Saratoga, 3 of them at 5/8 of a mile. I feel like that really points out that this horse is very well prepared.
The Damn Thundering Sky, certainly very capable. In her final start, she was 3rd behind Uni. We know how good that horse was for the Chad Brown barn, so there's some pedigree for that one as well.
Carson's Run just stepped in. We want to give a shout out as well to Wade and Carson Yost. They're watching from their home in Washington. This is West Point Thoroughbred's first 2-year-old starter on the East Coast this year, so we wish them the best with this 3-horse. Dylan Davis will be aboard. Let's go upstairs to kick off this Saturday card on Jim Dandy Saturday. Frank Miramati, the call.
Thank you, Greg. Just one more to go in. That's Moonlight, the gray son of Audible, taking up his position. Pletcher runners on the inside and outside. They're in the gate. And they're off. Yaqui Valley is going straight to the front. Frontline Warrior. Here comes Modica. And Modica, with very good natural speed, cruises to the front. Yaqui Valley now second. Frontline Warrior third. The gray is Moonlight. Fourth in the early going. Corruption is fifth, just inside Carson's Run. And Shamrock Shake is at the back. About 8 lengths off front-running Modica, who leads the way by 2. Yaqui Valley is second, 1.5 lengths, followed by Frontline Warrior. The opening quarter went in 24 1/5 seconds. And then it's Moonlight in fourth at this point. Followed at the rail by Corruption inside Carson's Run, who's up to take fifth. 3 clear of Shamrock Shake. Down the back stretch, and it's Modica and Manny Franco still in hand, leading by 1.5 lengths. Yaqui Valley second as they pass the half-mile pole. Frontline Warrior is in third, followed by Moonlight. The half went in 50 1/5 seconds. Moonlight about 3 lengths off the lead. Carson's Run trying to pick it up from fifth, has 6 to make up. It's now a distance to Corruption and Shamrock Shake, who are together at the back of the field. It's been all Modica. Modica, 2-length advantage as the field comes to the top of the stretch. Moonlight, Carson's Run on the far outside. Down on the rail, it's Frontline Warrior. They're a furlong from the finish. Carson's Run is starting to gather some big momentum now. And here comes Carson's Run on the outside. Frontline Warrior is also kicking in. Moonlight in between them. Modica tires late. Coming to the 16th, and Carson's Run puts his head in front. Traveling well throughout. Carson's Run wins it over Moonlight. Third to Frontline Warrior. Modica was fourth.
This one's for you, Carson Yost, named after that young man, born with Wolf Hirschhorn syndrome. First time out, ready to roll.
Yeah, and he looked like he was running a little bit with the emergency brake on, like just in place around the far turn. But when he got to the clear, he really dropped his head. He was trying to lug in a little bit. Dylan Davis went at him right-handed here. Had to correct him, went back. I thought he went back to his left. I guess he just kind of kept straightening him up at that point, Sarah.
Late. Very late, he swaps back over,
back to his left.
This is one that is very reminiscent of his sales work, where he kind of, when he turns it on, it's just so quick. It's such a quick burst of speed in that turn of foot that I think he just doesn't even know what to do with his legs yet, but he's moving forward and able to keep that forward momentum enough to get the win over that Todd Pletcher horse, Moonlight, who I would say ran pretty well, was always very wide in here, but exciting win. Of course, we love to see a horse with such an incredible story get the job done in the opener of what's going to be a great day here.
Yeah, it is a feel-good story to have this horse win for Carson, and I like the fact that Terry Finley did, in fact, pick out a good one for Carson.
That was the angle here. I know a family smiling ear to ear out in Washington. What a performance here for this debut for Carson's Run. Christophe Clement, trainee, West Point Thoroughbreds, and of course the Yost family heavily involved in the storyline with this one here. It kicks off this Saturday card at 5-1, 3-7, 5-6 finish. Good for Dylan Davis.
Yeah, nice to Dylan. You know, he's struggling a little bit, but this is a tough meet. I think he's been riding well and gets it done here with Carson's Run. We saw Miguel Clement there front and center on the TV, and this is one of my angles. When the horses have been here with Miguel, I upgrade them.
Interesting of note.
What do you got against Dad?
No, listen,
Start some family drama here?
No, I'm going with the young gun.
He didn't mean it, Christophe.
Yeah. I just feel like
because Christophe's watching at home right now.
No, he's in the winner's circle too.
He's there too.
I tell Christophe that himself, but it seems like last year a lot of the young horses that were schooling or training up here with Miguel through the spring were the ones that were performing the best.
There's Miguel plotting right now. How do I get Dad out of the picture? I'll just take over this whole operation.
I know he's got Richie's back.
3-7, 5-6. No, it does a tremendous job, and that's a part of a formidable team. Clement's so great. Christophe, for years and years, been one of the best in the business. Todd Pletcher, Hall of Famer. Steve Asmussen, Brad Cox. Some big chances as the heavyweights get ready to go toe-to-toe in the Jim Dandy in the 3-year-old division. That's still to come.
A Grade 1 winner on both dirt and turf, War of Will became a classic winner with this victory in the Preakness Stakes. He added turf credentials to his resume with a determined victory in the Grade 1 Maker's Mark Mile. Now his progeny are bringing top dollar in the sales rate.
280,000 just way.
Get it back, 191,000.
150,000, Nader Tomas, thank you.
A dual surface classic winning son of Warfront, War of Will, standing at Claiborne Farm.
RaceLens is the most in-depth product in horse racing, with unique features found nowhere else. True odds, predictive analysis, and pace projection. RaceLens. It will change the way you follow horse racing and take your game to the next level.
We're back on Saratoga Live on Jim Dandy Saturday afternoon here at this historic racetrack. Our coverage brought to you in part by legendary Claiborne Farm. 100 years of doing the usual unusually well, and you will not find a much better story than this, perhaps all meet long. Carson's Run, named after Carson Yost, born with that rare genetic disorder, the same one as Cody Dorman, who's Cody's Wish is named after, winning at first asking for West Point Thoroughbreds. Let's go to Maggie Wolfendale.
That's great. Here with Terry Finley of West Point Thoroughbreds. And Terry, we told the story about Carson Yost and his father Wade, and he watching. How special. And talk about picking this one out to name Carson's Run.
Well, I talked to Wade, and I just want to say hello to the whole family out in Washington. And I've talked to him for the last couple of years, and he said, I really want to get a horse with our boy Carson. And, over the years, he's had a lot of challenges, but he's been really such an inspiration to all of us. So I don't know, when we bought this horse, it all just came together. I said, I think I need to call Wade, and I did. He said, I'm in, whatever you need me to do. So I just know they're in their living room, and I called Wade before the race, and all good.
That's so tremendous. And would there be any, possibility of Carson coming to meet his equine namesake?
I sure hope so. I talked to Wade about that the other day because I thought we'd run well today. So, we all just send the love and the grace out there. And, I so appreciate the partners, right? Because we get a chance to live our dreams here, all of us, as a result of the owners and the partners and the bettors. So I say thank you to all of them.
And hopefully at 5-1, they had Carson's Run today. Terry, congratulations. What a truly inspiring story.
Always a pleasure. Thank you, Maggie.
Terry Finley, always the greatest heart of West Point Thoroughbreds, and it's so good to see this story come to fruition and Carson's Run winning first time out, Greg.
Go Carson. Everybody in this sport right now smiling and thinking about him today.
Yeah, it's fantastic, and I love the fact that they were able to experience this, albeit on TV, and hopefully we'll get to meet Carson when Carson gets to meet his namesake, Carson's Run.
And how about this horse maybe in stakes company at the meet later on?
Certainly a possibility. We do have some good 2-year-old stakes later on for those turf horses. This was such an impressive run first time out, really patiently handled, had a nice turn of foot as well, and of course, with that kind of story to root for, how can you be against anything this horse does going forward? Love to see the two of them interact. Clearly from those photos, Carson has some good vibes with the animals, getting together with those dogs as well, so really looking forward to it.
Couldn't ask for a better storyline in our Spendthrift Farm 2-year-old race of the day. What a way to start off this Saturday afternoon. Of course, the big one, we have a grade 1, but I think most people think the big one is in that 3-year-old division in the Jim Dandy grade 2. That prep for the Travers presented by DK Horse. Let's meet the field who will line up. 3 of them from Brad Cox, the 2-year-old champ, and then this horse for Steve Asmussen, Disarm, who's coming off winning the grade 3 Matt Winn.
Feels like this horse is just taking steps forward with every start. His last race in the slot was terrific, but I thought his Derby was very good. Major player today.
Meanwhile, Todd Pletcher with the 2-year-old champion coming back off that runner-up finish in the Belmont, and he'll have a change today.
Yes, a lot of talk about those blinkers being added for Forte as he does look to have those start and stops in his races no longer be a part of the equation. If he can stay engaged the entire time, you're just building on a horse that's already pretty good so far.
And then 3 stablemates for trainer Brad Cox, starting with Hit Show, who won the Withers in New York earlier this year.
I think Hit Show has been a gem of consistency. I thought both his Kentucky Derby and his Belmont Stakes were very good. Not ideal trips in either. Luis Saez today replacing Manny Franco. Luis an aggressive rider, and I felt like this horse has been aggressively handled recently. Sarah, I wonder how Luis is going to ride him.
Lightly raced new face to the scene in the division, and he's going to be all alone on the lead.
That's the hope, at least, and what we've seen from him so far, even though he's only run 3 times, so incredibly impressive, able to handle that stretch out to a mile, and really was able to sustain that speed. We'll see if he can go a little bit farther today.
Nice 3-part punch for Brad Cox. This is a horse that's going to be coming from way out of it, likely. Angel of Empire, 3rd in the Derby.
Yeah, I thought his Derby was good. I thought he got there with a good trip and kind of flattened out a touch late. 1 1/8 is obviously well within his scope. And another major player, he'd like to see some pace on. I don't know if he's going to get the kind of pace that's going to help Angel of Empire's late run, though.
Two biggest questions in this race. Is it how will the blinkers help Forte, and can Saudi Crown last the distance, would you say?
I think those are the two most legitimate questions going into this race. I will say this about Forte. Watching him work with the blinkers, you feel like it had the absolute desired effect, where there was continuity to his run. It wasn't stops and starts. He wasn't off the bridle. This year, more than even as a 2-year-old, he's been more of a bicycle horse. If you're not pedaling, he's not running. The blinkers in the workout kind of changed that all around. And I think if he just travels in the bridle and helps Irad a little bit, he's going to be very tough to beat.
Yeah, I really feel as though this is a horse that we've seen so many great things from him so far, but maybe we see a little bit more with the addition of that equipment.
Compact field, but so many good storylines in this Jim Dandy. Let's go to Maggie. And Maggie, who are you most looking forward to seeing in this Jim Dandy today?
Well, I don't know if I'm most looking forward to him, but I think he's an interesting player. And that's number one in here, Disarm. Because as I've spoken to his trainer, Steve Asmussen, Hall of Famer and the winningest trainer in North America, several times about him, he really feels there is a lot of talent and ability with this son of Gunrunner, who he has said to me just reminds him so much of his sire. And as he said, we were kind of behind the 8 ball chasing the Kentucky Derby. Maybe it wasn't, in hindsight, the right place to go with him, though he did finish 4th that day. But he came back with this huge win at Ellis Park, albeit in the slot from off the pace, which we don't see many horses winning from off the pace. And I think he's a real interesting player that might be the one that's on the upswing, as where, Greg, the 2-year-old champ Forte, we've seen what he is, I think, and I don't know if we've seen how good Disarm is yet.
We'll see if he can take another move forward. Right now, I think most would agree Forte is still the leader of this division, but lots going to be determined what happens today. And of course, in the Travers, you'll see the Jim Dandy today live on Big Fox. Coverage begins 3 Eastern, noon Pacific, again presented by DK Horse. We're going to take a timeout. We'll get into race 2 at the start of the Pick 4 when we come back. It's the most loaded barn Hall of Famer Bill Mott has had in his career, and he's gearing up for a big Saturday ahead.
As he takes the Grade 2 True North Stakes, Elite Power, a champion sprinter.
Curling, the classic sire.
Experience the adrenaline-pumping, suspense-filled action of the Sport of Kings no matter where you are with Naira Bets. It's fast, easy, and secure. Download the app today and start winning with our lucrative weekly promotions, thrilling handicapping contests, and a one-of-a-kind VIP rewards program. Don't just watch horse racing, be a part of the action with Naira Bets.
They say breed the best of the best and hope for the best.
Vekoma broke well on the outside.
But you don't expect to get speed like this.
Is Vekoma the one to catch? Vekoma has a 5-length lead in this Grade 1 corner.
Reach for the unreachable. Race to new horizons. The artisan's quest for beauty burns in the heart of Japan, forging strength like no other, with love and honed to perfection. Noble, authentic, and only here. The legacy of strength.
Back with you from historic Saratoga Racecourse in upstate New York. You're watching Saratoga Live. Welcome to those just joining us on Bally Sports SoCal and San Diego. Those already with us on FS2. The program brought to you in part where you can play all the action at Naira Bets. Bet any track, anywhere, anytime. As we get set to dig into race 2 here, 6 furlong sprinting main track, allowance optional claiming field, and some talent lined up in this spot. Joey Freshwater, that 3-horse for Linda Rice, scratched out of the Amsterdam to run in this spot instead, and that in hindsight turned out to be a very good move with what we saw from New York Thunder.
I think that was a prudent decision to duck him and try these guys. Listen, this is no layup here either. He's a 3-year-old taking on older, and there's some pretty salty individuals in here.
And while he is a stakes winner, he definitely was not winning that race yesterday. So this is a better spot for him, but certainly no cinch in here. He's getting a ton of play right now, currently 8-5 though.
For the meet's leading trainer, Linda Rice, who did not get a win on the Friday card. We'll see if she could bounce back today. Let's go to Maggie.
We'll talk about Joey Freshwater in a second, but I do want to discuss Osborne, a horse that I am familiar with from out at Oaklawn Park. And I remember the weekend that he ran, my husband Tom actually came with us, and we were talking with Polly, and Oaklawn is a very hard racetrack, hard surface. And so I think that produced a lot of just kind of crabby horses. You know, they just didn't feel great physically. And that's why we saw a lot of them not run very well subsequently at Churchill, for instance. And Osborne kind of struck me as one of those. He still tried. I will give him credit. He is a trier, where he did finish second behind the very quick straight no chaser who would return in that subsequent start, the Maryland Sprint, with a 107 Beyer speed figure. And looking at him here in the paddock, I wish he looked just a little bit more tucked up. He's his usual quiet self. He's one I want to pay attention to and how he warms up, and what we see from him out on the racetrack. As we'll check in with Joey Freshwater here for Linda Rice. She opts to add blinkers on this horse, where he was wired last time out by Uncashed in the off-the-turf quick call stakes. And before that, the Dwyer, I think, is just too far. He's certainly built like an out-and-out sprinter, being a son of Jimmy Creed. And it's actually a pretty substantial blinker going on him today, a French Cup. So I don't know if Linda's trying to get him to be a bit more forwardly placed. Usually when you put those blinkers on, that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to elicit a little bit more speed from him. He looks great here, as he always does. But I thought that was an interesting move, Greg, with the head equipment.
Interesting move indeed. We have some very interesting storylines in this race too. We have a horse who won a stake here as a 2-year-old. Looked like he was going on to be a star for Bill Mott. And High Oak, things have just not panned out. He still trains in the morning with that he has that star ability, but he's just not the same horse.
Well, after he had that accident in the Fountain of Youth where, you know, a few horses actually fell, physically he was fine, but mentally I think it really shook him up. And some horses just respond so negatively to it, and you don't ever find their form again. I will say, I do think High Oak took a step forward his last 2 starts, and maybe there's a chance he can get over that.
I just want to see it before I take him again. And of course, these are sharp connections. Bill Mott is not going to continue entering a horse if he's not showing him something in the morning that says that he still has some ability. But on the other hand, I just haven't seen him from him on the racetrack in the afternoons. He's not showing that he wants to play anymore after having that fall in that Fountain of Youth. And while he was one that showed a lot of promise early on as a 2-year-old, even that accident aside, it's also a possibility that you have horses that are so precocious and capable early on as 2-year-olds that just don't take that step forward when they get a little bit older. So he's got a lot of things going against him, and I think the price right now shows, of course, if he runs back to some of those races we saw once upon a time, it's possible that he wins this race, but where are they? I think that's a really fair question to ask.
Well, 9-5 favorite right here, Joey Freshwater. Graded stakes winner against 3-year-olds. That was in the Bayshore, but some pretty talented older company, as we've talked about. He is taken on in here. Bold Journey, the 4-horse, has that one race that came at Aqueduct, out of this world figure he received. He's not backed it up since.
No, and that day he actually laid up closer. You know, there's times he drops way out of it and he becomes very pace dependent. On that particular day, going back to February 10th, he put himself in the game. He actually middle moved and made the lead well before the quarter pole.
Meanwhile,
Go ahead, Greg.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, that kind of number that we saw from him that day, we hadn't seen anything quite like that beforehand. We haven't seen anything quite like that since. I know the turf races are comparable, and he's certainly very talented, but I do also feel that he's a horse that's going to likely be pace compromised in a spot like this as well, and I just want to see that kind of huge number from him again at what's going to be a fairly short price today.
Riders up. Going to get to the post parade here in just a little bit as they walk by us here in our paddock set. And there's those silks of Lee Einsiedler. High Oak, had to be a great feeling to see this one start off his career with back-to-back win, not just a grade 2 win. He beat Gunite in that Saratoga special, and that's going to be a horse who has become a star, obviously, for Steve Asmussen, who we'll see in the grade 1 Vanderbilt later today.
So I stopped to have lunch with Lee Einsiedler on the way down to Belmont on one of the evening programs we were covering Canterbury. So I stopped to have lunch. It's on my way down from my place. We swam in the pool. While we were swimming in the pool, he told me, I got a colt. His name's High Oak. He's pretty good. That was before he ever ran. He won first time out, came back with that big win in the Saratoga Special. And that fall just completely derailed him. I'm hoping that he can get over that kind of mental block about racing. I remember years ago, a horse named Low Return, really nice runner for Frank Lovacetti, had a fall at Belmont. He just never wanted to run anymore after that.
Well, you think about it in terms of people like us, when you have some sort of traumatic incident that goes a little bit wrong, even if you appear unscathed afterwards, you fully heal your body. Your mind might not be there yet. I'm sure you've had a couple instances where something comes up and you're a little hesitant about getting back into doing something as well.
Well, that was one of my biggest problems. I didn't hesitate. That's why I got hurt so much.
Go tell High Oak.
You had more than your fair share of injuries.
I think I took some other people's fair shares, and there's a smiling Katie Davis who, anybody who knows Katie knows that that's her personality, and got her very first Saratoga winner yesterday in her entire career and contributed a really good ride.
It's got to feel good, isn't it, to have that first big one at a place like this, someone that rides well all the time, but nice to see it done on a bigger stage like this as well.
My Harbor's Dream will kick things off here. Manny Franco for David Jacobson.
Comes off a nice win at Monmouth Park, but that was for 16 after being claimed at Santa Anita for 10. This is tougher.
There's the stablemate late to the party here with Florent Giroux coming out. Had to get a saddle adjustment.
Yeah, and another one. Actually, this horse could play out to be definitely a part of the pace, particularly coming off of that sharp pace race last time, which showed improved speed.
Post 5 and 6 for the entry. The rail to High Oak.
Of course, one that we've already discussed is having that sharp ability as a 2-year-old. An accident took him out of it as a 3-year-old. We'll see if he can get back on track finally. He's got to be showing them something in the morning.
Here's the graded stakes winner, Joey Freshwater.
Yeah, Joey Freshwater come off of a good effort, well beaten in the quick call, went on cash, was loose on the lead. Taking on Olders, though. This is no easy spot.
Turf to dirt for Bold Journey, Bill Mott.
Of course, this is a horse that's already handled this surface in the past. Are we going to see an effort like that 96 Spire 4 starts ago? If so, extremely dangerous here.
Osborne started off the year for Ron Moquette. Looked like he might be a graded stakes company very soon.
Wow, that huge effort back in January with that 98 Buyer speed figure. Certainly a player here. Good to see Ron Moquette here with a string.
He crushed Skelly, who's a very fast and talented sprinter for Steve Asmussen that day. Here is the 6 Scotchatorre, Luis Saez.
And Timeform US projects this horse to be the one that is controlling things early, which could seriously work to his advantage because there aren't too many horses that have that kind of sprint speed, at least that they've displayed so far.
Floki's Flight outside. Ricardo Santana Jr.'s won 3 in a row.
Yeah, looking for that 4th in a row, turning back in distance. A horse that'll be forward, but probably out-footed just a little bit here, turning back in distance, but certainly a player. Scacciatori, the 6 horse, you know what that means, right?
Tell us.
Pest, nuisance, like a pain in the neck. That's why if you ever hear an Italian person, somebody's a scutch, that's slang for Scacciatori, you're a nuisance.
And there's a follow-up to this, right?
Well, that's what I like.
Oh, I thought it was something else. Sorry.
No.
Here's Bold Journey. Turf to dirt, Javier Castellano, riding for Bill Mott. Castellano, of course, took 2/3 of this year's Triple Crown. And let's take a look at him in action. This was back on February 10th at Aqueduct.
Yeah, this was that effort I was talking about where he moved much earlier and more into the teeth of the race than he normally does. And now you get Javier Castellano, who's just so adept at, putting horses in the right position. I don't think this horse needs to be out of touch. Not that he's a speed type, but I don't think he needs to fall as far back as he has in some of his races.
I would agree with that sentiment. Does it bother you at all that he's a horse that's only faced state breds and done that well?
No, because I think some of his efforts have just been, that strong. I mean, the fact that he won last time, but it was turf, and there's Bill Mott. I mean, wasn't it Bill Mott's birthday yesterday? Or is it today? I think it's today.
Ooh.
He had the streak. It was an incredible streak where he had a win every single year on his birthday, running for about, what, 12, 13 years, maybe more.
20 years in a row.
It finally came to an end. I would think it's going to continue. He'll get another one, if not multiple wins coming up this year. He's loaded. I mean, it is incredible the depth and talent he has coming back. Here's another Mott runner right here. But the man known for the most famous win streak of all time has two superstars on great win streaks of their own in Cody's Wish and Elite Power.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that has made Bill Mott the youngest trainer ever inducted in Racing Hall of Fame. His ability to keep horses in good form, get them there, but have them hold the form over a long period of time.
Let's go to Maggie with more on High Oak.
Yeah, Bill Mott. We'll see if the streak can pick back up again here on his birthday. And as you mentioned, High Oak, I like what Sarah said. He must be showing them something in the morning, because what I can say is this by far is the best turned out horse by a mile in this field. But will he ever get over it? I was talking to his owner, Lee Einseidler, and I said, ooh, I don't like that inside post. He says, I absolutely despise it. But they said to Katie, get him out of the gate. You have to hustle him. So look for her to be aggressive out of the gate. And sometimes with a female rider aboard, which she did ride him 2 back, but that was on the turf. He doesn't want to run on the turf. They just... they don't feel threatened. Horses that feel threatened, that maybe had an accident, a female rider isn't going to manhandle him, she's gonna ask him. And I think that a horse like this, you have to ask and you have to praise, and that's exactly what Katie's gonna do to instill a bit more confidence in him. See him pulling on his ears, I love that. As number 4, Bold Journey, look, he proved me completely wrong. I questioned that if he was a turf horse or not, but again, as hard spuns typically do, they handle anything. So I like him back on the dirt here. I think he makes a good deal of sense. He's built more like a dirt horse, and I think it's a positive move going to the main track. As number 7, Floki's Flight, wow, he's been determined to win in his last 2 efforts. But like Mig said, I question the turn back in distance. He's a bit more of a longer, scopier frame, and it feels like when he's forward, he does his best running, but at least as he does turn back, he gets to do it from the outside with an aggressive Ricardo Santana aboard. And then I just want to mention about Osborne, he is moving better out on track than what I saw from him in that last race on April 1st, Greg.
I'd love to see Osborne, the 5, there he is, get back to what he was to kick off this year. Ron Moquette, I know, was so high on him, thought he was going to become a star. He just hasn't moved forward off a sensational start to his 4-year-old season.
This is a horse that hasn't shown really any early speed, but is still able to come with a closing kick, and just the kind of company this one has been facing. I think that you don't have to completely dismiss him, and you're getting a fair enough price right now. I just worry that the speed in this race is going to be coming from the number 6 Scotchatorre with Floki's Flight pressing right to his outside, and I don't know that it's going to set up so much for those closers in a race like this.
And just real quick to follow up on Bill Mott on his birthday, he'd won on his birthday at Saratoga 16 of 22 years. 4 of those years, too, were dark days, so he didn't have a birthday. It's a pretty good streak. Let's go upstairs. Start of the pick 4, Frank Miramonte, the call.
Floki's Flight goes in. They're in the gate. And they're off. Joey Freshwater is very quick away from the gate and will vie for the early lead alongside Safa's Day. And now it's Safa's Day opening up a length and a half. Floki's Flight not far behind. Scotchatorre moving up in between horses in the yellow colors, and then it's My Harbor's Dream 3 lengths off the lead. Bold Journey is underway from the back of the field, about 5 lengths off the pace, followed by Osborne, and High Oak is at the back. 22 and 2 for the quarter. It's Safa's Day in front. Floki's Flight on the outside, a length back second. Scotchatorre is in third. My Harbor's Dream is fourth, followed by Joey Freshwater. Orange Silks 4 lengths off the lead. Another 2 back to Bold Journey. They pass the quarter pole and turn for home. Safa's Day, Floki's Flight, Scotchatorre looking for a spot, finding it right now in between them. They are followed on the far outside by My Harbor's Dream. Center of the track, Osborne, Joey Freshwater. They're coming to the 16th pole. Head-and-head battle. Scacciatore on the outside, taking the lead and starting to pull away. Scacciatore wins it by a length and a half. A hard-charging High Oak flew into second. Then it was Safa's Day in third, fourth between Osborne and My Harbor's Dream.
Scacciatore, the victory. Luis Saez, Rudy Rodriguez for Lamarca Stable, 6-year-old with a 6th win of his career.
Not surprised that Scacciatore got it done. I didn't anticipate that trip where he wound up sitting in behind horses, that first fight in the pocket, but came out, was very resolute, got it done. Nice effort from Scacciatore. How about High Oak, who was so far back last turning for home, saved every inch of ground. Didn't look like there was any ill effects from that accident back at Gulfstream, over a year and a half ago now. I love the way he rallied in traffic.
I know, we were both so excited about seeing this kind of run from a horse that just had so much talent early on and was really looking to get over something mentally. And just for him to be so brave, diving inside of horses, then switching to the outside and going around another one, and such an improved performance for him, taking nothing away from your winner, Scacciatore, who had to adapt to circumstances within this race. But the start, Bold Journey really got the worst of it outside of the gate.
Yeah, 4-horse here. You see that little stumble, and never good when that happens out of the gate.
He actually kind of, he stumbled slightly, then he bobbled like twice in a row, trying to find his footing, and sometimes it just kind of takes a horse out of their rhythm, and they're never able to kind of get in that good frame. But Scacciatore, he got it done. He was a nuisance to the rest of this field.
Yes, he was. You know, we talk about High Oak, and that is so great to see. Happy for Leah Einseidler, too. Katie Davis delivering a nice ride on this horse.
She's been riding so well, and one thing about it, I think horses feed on positive energy. There is no more positive energy than Katie Davis. She is a bundle of positive energy.
Smile, super infectious too. You can tell she is just doing the thing that she loves the most out there, and of course that's what you love to see. It's extremely infectious.
5-1 on your winner, Luis Saez. Picking up another W, inching ever closer to Arad Ortiz Jr. We're going to take you inside the starting gate when we come back. My partner will, the MIG, to show you the keys to success for a sharp break from the gate. We'll have that next.
Spun to Run. His brilliant speed figures were among the fastest of any 3-year-old at a mile or more, and he hails from the legendary Danzig sire line. Now, this multiple graded stakes winner, millionaire, and Breeders' Cup champion is passing his remarkable talent along to his progeny.
95, 5, 200, 200 down, 2, in the back, Patrick, 200,000, thank you.
Spun to Run, standing at Gainesway.
Welcome to the Adelphi Racing Club experience. Take ownership of stakes-winning thoroughbreds like Funny How, racing at the highest level circuits.
Funny How is in front. It's Funny How who's up by 3 lengths, approaching the 16th pole. It's all Funny How. Funny How, Katie Davis more than amused. Funny How wins the Broadway.
Contact us online to get a taste of the Adelphi difference and come hang with us this Saratoga meet.
Welcome back. You're watching Saratoga Live here on FS2 as we are proudly brought to you by America's Best Racing. For the love of the race, check out americasbestracing.net today. Scott Chattore gets the win, and I'm so pleased to be joined by winning owners, Jane and Tom Lamarca. And Tom, this is a horse that you actually went in and claimed, and he's just been kind of knocking on the door. So at this level, to get through with this win at the Spa, it's gotta feel good.
It's an incredible feeling. It's a wonderful feeling, and it was a great opportunity. The New York Thoroughbred Breeders Association, what they've done for racing is incredible. And this was a great opportunity. I felt claiming for 45 was a little risk. If we could win, even if we had to come back from 45, we'd be out. So as a guy that claims horses, I also breed horses, but now just not the same kind of luck. Fortunately, this horse prevailed today, and we're just thrilled to death. Jane and I rode up here especially to watch the horse run, and it just worked out. Sometimes a dream works out, and horse racing is a dream more than a business, I think.
It is. You can't be in it all the time for a business. But speaking of the business end of things, nice incentive to run a New York bred at an open allowance.
Incredible. It's an incredible incentive. When I got to 30%, I said, wow, I've got to find more New York breds. And I was fortunate enough, some years ago, you might remember, I had a compliance officer, was a New York bred, and we actually made it to the Breeders' Cup with him. So I'm kind of a claiming guy and try to get lucky. I've tried to get as lucky in breeding, but I haven't been. All that being said, it's a wonderful day. Fortunately, the rain held off, although I think this horse was ready to run. Rudy did an incredible job, as did the breeder. You've got to give the breeder some credit. Here's the breeders right here, Joe and Ann McMahon, and they're just wonderful people to begin with. So I thank you so much for the interview, and we're just thrilled to death, and we're blessed.
Well, we're so happy to see you. Congratulations to you both. And as you said, the McMahons are standing right next to us. They bred Scott Chattore, and they've also been clients of Tom and Jane's for over 35 years, guys.
We talk about McMahon Thoroughbreds of Saratoga a lot on this program. That beautiful farm they have here in upstate New York. Scott Chattore, $12.40 for the win. Good to see High Oak off that performance. That is something to build off of at 19-1. And Rudy Rodriguez, 6th winner of this meet, having a tremendous start to this summer season. As we move into the third here, sprinting on the turf, 5.5 furlongs, $35,000 claiming race, all for sale for that price. Horses who have not won to lifetime. Now, races can be won or lost from what happens before the starting gate ever opens. They also could be won or lost for the first few steps out of that gate before the latch is even sprung. Richard Migliori takes us inside that starting gate to show us the keys to success to a good break.
The post, the barrier, the stalls, the Iron Monster, the starting gate. There are so many key and important times in a race where jockeys have to make quick decisions, when to move, when to sit, wait behind horses. But to me, one of the most critical times in a race is leaving the starting gate. If you don't break cleanly, you can get shuffled back, taken out of position, and it's hard to get a horse in a good rhythm. Starts are so important. I want you to know what goes on inside the starting gate. Come on with me.
Wait for the throw. All right. Yeah.
Key to breaking sharp from the gate is having your horse warmed up, alert, but settled. You want them relaxed. We've got a great gate crew here in New York, and they know all the horses, their habits, what to expect. Put them in the gate, get them square, looking down the track, and be ready to go.
Try to get as relaxed as I can on my horse before we go in the gate. And once I get in there, I want to let him walk in and take a deep breath and make sure the gate guy get up, because I want to make sure he starts setting his feet correctly. And you know the ones that's going to sit in there and be still, but I just want to keep it as relaxed as I can going into the gate with the horse, where the horse can feel like he's going to do his job. I'm going to just stay out of his way.
You get one that cuts right to the gate, sometimes they'll balk. It's a kind of a closed space. Some horses are a little claustrophobic. Important to pick up your feet so you don't get your legs caught on the side of the gate. You could feel their energy. Sometimes you'll feel their heartbeat beating on your leg. Again, want to keep them relaxed, settled, get them square. The assistant starters are so good at getting the horse nice and balanced. Sometimes you get one that's leaning a little too far, you'll take your leg, push off the petition, get them where you want them to be. Looking down the racetrack, all 4 legs square on the ground. Last horse gets ready to go in, you're going to take your half cross, take a piece of mane, one hand, other hand free in case horse breaks left or right. You can correct them, and you're going to be leaving here in a hurry.
Well, a lot of people wait on the guys to say one out to get all set and ready. You know, I'm not, you know, you can hear the guy say one out, but I'm mostly paying attention to the guy with the button. That's how I break so fast out the gate, you know. I'm a button guy, you know, or I listen to the last door sound and the button. And after that, early position wins the race most of the time.
So many moving parts that make a horse break well or break poorly. It's important to have great communication between the rider and the assistant starters, as well as the official starter, and working with the trainers to make sure that if a horse is a little bit nervous, they school them, they get them where they're relaxed around the gate. It's not always the horse that's the most keyed up that breaks the best. It's the horse that's alert and settled and balanced in the gate. Then you can leave the gate in a hurry.
Well, I want to know, I think America wants to know, the horse you were on in that piece, how does that horse break from the gate? Because we're going to see that horse coming up.
Unfortunately, he hasn't been the fastest from the gate. His name is Starry Night. He is the 4-horse coming up in this third race. At the time, he was trained by John Kimmel. John was kind enough to bring a horse over to the starting gate for me. I got on behind the starting gate. I did not break from the gate in case my doctor or anybody else
There's a look at him.
that would have objections is watching. And listen, I've always thought Starry Night had potential. He just has never quite broken through. But he was pretty good in the feature.
Well, that's what matters, right? Maybe a future as a star in a different kind of way going forward. Of course, you've been able to turn your career into something else very incredible as well. How much did that piece make you miss riding?
Oh, tremendously. It was a very emotional piece for me to do, and you could hear it in my voice a bit. I was just a little bit tied up. I didn't think I'd get like that, but I hadn't been on a racehorse in 13 years at that point.
Wouldn't have known from that piece. Looked like the same old MiG to me. That's going to wrap up our FS2 coverage. As you see, we're going to continue and pick things up over on FS1 after this timeout. So we'll see you over there and pick things up with a third sprinting on the grass right after a timeout.
I just happened to be up on the third floor of the grandstand at Saratoga. So I saw a horse load up in the gate and just decided to clock it. Went like 11 and 22 and 33 and 44 and change. It was one of the fastest gate works I've ever seen.
Nashville, first time out, much the best.
Spice Down was a super fast horse. Certainly no surprise when he has an offspring like Nashville.
Never asked for a thing, track record.
Nashville for the best sprint time of the Fairgrounds meet.
Like my old boss, Wayne Lucas, always said, you can't coach speed.
When it comes to horse racing, you can never have too much information. With Twin Spires, you can place your bets with confidence. Whether you use handicapping insights, like our Brisnet speed ratings, prime power and past performances, the guidance of our experts' top picks, or just choose a name that catches your eye. Yes! No matter how you pick your horse, bet with Twin Spires. Start earning your $200 sign-up bonus when you sign up with offer code GET200.
Society building a 3-length lead, set down for the drive. She just went past Rafaros, but she's still 5 lengths behind Society, who rolls off the turn, now in front by 6. Society down to the final furlong, now by 7. Drafaros in a good battle for second, with Matt Torreya, nobody catching Society. Streaking through the stretch to score by 9 lengths on the wire.
Racetrack Television Network brings you every race, from every track, on every screen, every day. With monthly packages starting as low as $5, RTN gives you great value and access to more live HD streaming and race replays than anyone. Visit RTN.tv today to sign up and watch on almost any device, including Roku and Amazon Fire. RTN has packages that start at $5 per month.
Saratoga.
It's Jim Dandy Day at Saratoga with a wide open 3-year-old division there for the taking. Hall of Fame trainer Todd Pletcher has won this race 6 times. Today he makes a tweak with his 2-year-old champ. trying to win a 7th. That would be Forte. The favorite for this year's Kentucky Derby had to scratch the morning of the race. He's back off his Belmont Stakes runner-up finish with blinkers added for the first time. Brad Cox pulled off a Jim Dandy Travers double 2 years ago with Essential Quality. Today he'll send out 3 runners against the 2-year-old champ, including third-place finisher from the Derby, Angel of Empire. He's won half his starts. Can he turn the tables on Forte after a 4th-place finish in the Belmont? And the sprint champ returns. Elite Power, he has won 7 straight and counting. Will the streak continue in today's Grade 1 Vanderbilt? That more ahead on today's edition of Saratoga Live on FS1. It's brought to you in part by America's Best Racing. For the love of the race, visit americasbestracing.net today. A big Saturday of action here at the premier meet in the country, and a tremendous crowd on hand to catch the action here in upstate New York in the Adirondacks. Grade 1 Vanderbilt. Grade 2 Jim Dandy, that prep for the Travers ahead. Greg Wolf alongside champion jockey Richard Migliori. Sarah Elbadwe here as well. And you talk Jim Dandy, this 3-year-old division, it gets all the attention. It's really the glamour division in this sport. The 2-year-old champ, how much of a difference can this equipment change make?
Oh, it can make a marked difference. If he responds in the afternoon the way I've seen him respond as positively as he has to the blinkers on in the morning, I think you will see a big step forward from Forte. Not that you need a big step forward. I mean, he is 6 for 8 with a 2nd. His Belmont Stakes was tremendous. I don't think he had as good a trip as the winner that day. He was coming off 10 weeks because he wasn't able to, participate in the Kentucky Derby, also precluded him from the Preakness. So it basically blew up his entire schedule, and I think he showed that he still is the horse we saw as a 2-year-old. Now we need to see if he's a little better than what we saw as a 2-year-old.
Exactly, and I think that's something so of note because the competition is getting better as far as Forte goes, going into that heating up 3-year-old division this summer. If he continues to do what he's done in some of his prior races where he has a moment of disengagement before getting going again around the far turn, there are some good horses that are developing now that might be able to get the best of him. Perhaps those blinkers make the change to keep a very polished product a little bit more engaged as the races go on, not that he needs to get that much better.
That's our ABR race of the week. It is a good one, and this is the time of year when we start to see some of these 3-year-olds growing up, maturing, putting on a little more weight, and maybe catching up to some of the horses who were the leaders of the division.
Absolutely, they're changing. They're works in progress. Think about children, how they change and develop at different stages. Some are more precocious and do it earlier, some a little later. This year, these summer races take on more importance because we had 3 different winners of the Triple Crown races. This division is still up for grabs.
And you might ask, why would you make a change on a horse who's going to be the favorite in the Kentucky Derby? Just was a runner-up off a 10-week layoff, tried to get a 1.5 miles with a wide trip in the Belmont. Of course, that's Forte we're talking about, multiple Grade 1 winner. But his Hall of Fame trainer, Todd Pletcher, felt it was just a horse who was losing concentration at multiple spots in races in the Florida Derby, a race that he won in the Belmont, a race where he ran huge. He wants to get him more engaged and locked in early.
Well, for me, watching him run those races, he looked like he was running with the emergency brake on, stops and starts. There was no continuity to his run. He's having to be asked, the typical, what we refer to as a bicycle horse. If you're not pedaling, he's not running. His latest work, now, albeit it was slow and it's off the pole, he traveled in the bridle more and consistently than I've ever seen him. And then when he was asked to run, he left his workmate so readily. And that's something he's not always willing to do. He's not as generous a workhorse as you see a lot of good horses are. That's just him. I personally believe he's the best 3-year-old. I think these blinkers are the pathway to do it. Now, Malathat, Todd added blinkers. She ran 2nd. But she wasn't right that day. She acted up in the paddock. She got overheated. He said that the blinkers had the desired effect. She just wasn't right on the day, and then she went on to be champion older mare. We saw it with Vino Rosso. Blinkers made a big difference. He didn't win the first time he put the blinkers on him, but he went on to win the Breeders' Cup Classic. And going back in time, there were several others we could talk about, Left Bank and so many others. But more recently, those are the ones that come to mind.
Well, let's say we have Forte finishing 2nd today. It's the Jim Dandy. It's not the Travers. You want to have that experiment now in what is going to be a prep for that Travers coming up later on for this horse. And Forte's a horse that maybe if we've seen 90%, we can't afford to see 90% 100% going forwards. Everybody else is catching up, and they're going to bring their 100%. He needs to do the same, and maybe those blinkers help make that happen today.
5:45 Eastern start time for the Grade 2 Jim Dandy. You will see live coverage on Big Fox later this afternoon. And of course, that's the big prize everybody wants in that 3-year-old division. Those are the colors of Winchell Thoroughbreds with Epicenter. Won the Travers last summer. The winner of the Travers, that infield canoe, gets painted in the winning silks of the Connections. We'll see what happens in late August. This the stepping stone to get there, and probably is going to determine who will be the favorite into that race. First things first, ways to get to the Jim Dandy on this Saturday card. Race 3 is coming up, 5.5 furlongs. Sprinting on the turf here, they're all for sale for $35,000 in this claiming race. Horses who have not won 2 lifetimes. So the nature of this condition, Meg, inconsistency.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. I think there's a lot of ways you can go. I think Sarah and I are both interested in a horse at a good price that we think is landing in a good spot, and that's in the 6, Carpe's Dream.
Yeah, this is one that you just look down the page for this horse as far as the company that he's been keeping, and names like Bold Journey, who we saw not run quite as well, but that was a different surface and a stumbling start. You see horses like Fluid Situation, Portfolio Company. You go back further, you see Big Invasion. You think about what kind of price horses like that would be in a spot like this, and you know that this one has just really been running over his head. I also feel as though he's one that we haven't seen him need to be close up for some of his races so far. You could argue that he hasn't had a ton of success lately, but I think that he is in a good spot today to possibly get the job done in a very generous 11-1 at the moment. We'll see how things shake out at the end.
Post parade coming up for our 3rd race on the afternoon. Tyler Gaffleone, front and center in your screen. He's had a great week to this point.
He's got a lot to smile about.
Yes,
He's
he
riding
does.
well. He's riding live horses. His agent, Matt Musica, does a good job getting him a steady supply of live mounts. And this is the best start to a Saratoga meeting he's had. You know, in years past, it feels like the first week or two, it takes a little while for him to get going. He's a little more dependent on the Kentucky outfits, how the kind of start they get off to. This year, he broke well from the gate.
He really rules the roost at Churchill, Ellis now since the move was made to go there instead. But being able to have a good start to Saratoga, of course, it gives you some confidence to continue that momentum going forwards.
And here he is. He's on KBC You Later, teaming up with Joe Sharp, new gelding, and getting Lasix.
Yeah, complete makeover. Gelding, Lasix, horses shown ability. One up here in Saratoga on the turf, gate to wire with Tyler Gaffleone aboard.
Luna Warrior coming off a maiden claiming win.
Facing winners for the first time. You know that he's going to be coming from off the pace, but has to take that step forward if he's going to compete here against horses that have been facing winners for a long time.
Hatch showed speed last time out, backed up to 3rd.
Improved speed last time. What does he do today?
Flavian Pratt back from a suspension on Starry Starry Night.
I think they'll really appreciate cutting back to this 5.5 furlong distance and getting a little bit of class relief as well.
Basis risk, big long shot.
Yeah, it's going to have to really improve from any race we've seen so far to be competitive here.
There's the one Sarah had talked about, facing that really strong company, Carpe's Dream.
Yes, I have a lot of interest in this one. I think that maybe this distance might suit him as well if he can come from off the pace, getting that class relief too.
Devil's Only Friend did win first time out for George Weaver.
And one first time out with Lasix. Didn't have Lasix the next 2 starting stakes. Gets Lasix back today.
First on the turf for the 8 Isocline.
Yes, exactly. Making that surface switch. Has a synthetic race to go back to if he can repeat that one. And only 2nd time in for a tag against winners.
Dylan Davis went by and Volkert. Here's the 10 XS Demand.
This is one that's also trying the surface for the first time. We need to see a little bit more for this horse moving barns as well.
And War Terminator coming out of a 50,000 starter allowance.
I thought this horse was a major player here. He's got to find a trip from post, out there, post 11.
Katie Davis also eligible, drawing in El Conejito.
Talked about how well she's riding so far to start the meet, and this is one that's stakes faced if you go back a ways. Pretty lightly raced still as well.
So 4 minutes away from this 3rd on the card. And there's Luna Warrior, their current 2-1 favorite, Javier Castellano. And you win, you got to face better company. Now this horse going up against non-winners at 2 Life.
Yeah, but actually, I thought this was a really good race and certainly something to build on. And I like the fact that Javier Castellano stays put. This horse ran the last 2 races were both good races under Javier.
You go to the race before this as well. I mean, Billy's got issues. That won that day, came back to run a respectable race, and his second start off after that. So facing okay horses, I just worry that with some of these class droppers as well, this may end up being a much tougher field for this one's first try against winners than he would likely face in a similar spot. But because it is Saratoga and you have those trainers that are looking to get the wins here, I think that this ends up being a much tougher field because of that factor.
We welcome in for the first time this afternoon, Acacia Clement for more.
Hey, Greg, and we'll start with that horse there. I was just touching on the number 2, Luna Warrior, who is facing winners for the first time, and that can often be a jump. And I like to try and look at horses and see how they stack up physically to their counterparts who are more experienced. And this guy stacks up very favorably for Jose D'Angelo. Broke his maiden last time. He has tactical speed. It seems to have improved since they added the blinkers too, and coming back off that little bit of a break. Javier Castellanos opted to keep him with the pony because he was pretty sharp back in the paddock, but nothing too much. I know he's your favorite at 2-1, but he was really the horse that just first caught my eye when I walked back into paddock. The number 4, Starry Night, is dropping in class from Starter Allowance Company. Now, I know he has not done any running recently. I have such great respect for trainer Michelle Hemingway, and she's very, very patient with horses. And I feel like this horse, who Flavian Pratt will climb aboard, is hopefully kind of rounding into form. He was a horse that used to get very hot prior to his races. He would get a little bit kind of distracted. He would just kind of look a little bit stuffed up, and today he's moving well out there. He's very relaxed. It looks like a horse that is just doing well. I expected him to be a bit of a bigger price, but at least he is taking a drop in class. The number 6, Carpe's Dream, significant drop in class for this guy. He has been facing just so much tougher company. Jose Lascano took him right away from the pony. He warmed up beautifully out there on the racetrack, and he's faced just so much tougher than what he finds in here today, and I preferred the class drops. I thought that this was really going to be the right spot for him. And Greg, I got something pretty special here, because if you don't know yet, on Sunday we have the Jockey Karaoke coming up for the Permanently Disabled Jockeys Fund, and there's always an East Coast, West Coast competition. The West Coast had their competition already, and they've won the last couple years. And as I think the East Coast is the best coast, this belt is up for grabs. I hope that we bring it this year, because we got to keep it here in New York.
And these East Coast riders have been to that karaoke night several times. They lay it all out on the line on karaoke night. Every year it is one of the most fun nights in town here in Saratoga.
They put it out there, and I give them all the credit in the world. And listen, it's for a great cause. I still couldn't bring myself to sing in public. Maybe alone in the shower, no one home.
Why are you not going to have a song for us, Richie?
You know what people ask me to sing for them? They ask me to sing Far Away.
That would be your
far,
song?
far away from them.
Oh, it's kind of like your Paddington joke last
Permanently
week.
Disabled Jockeys Fund, since its inception back in 2006, has raised over $11 million for riders who have been injured doing what they love. Tremendous cause. If you can't make it, if you're not out here for karaoke night, you can still contribute at pdjf.org. Great cause. And look at this. 6 across the board for the 3 of you with a horse who has, look, it's a drop anyway, but it's been some unusually tough entry-level allowance races that this horse has been in against.
He's faced very tough company. He's getting class relief. He's making his 3rd start off the layoff. I think he looks tremendous. Greg DePrima does a great job. You know, for a guy that doesn't have a lot of horses, his horses always look good. And when they're in the right spots, they can win. He's taking some money now. And full disclosure, his owner, Jess Iglesias, is a very good friend of mine. So not only do I like the horse in the spot, I'm rooting for him because I have a friend involved.
Well, great to see the people that we know and really care about the game do well. Of course, we were talking about Lee Einseidler earlier, so another example. And even in our first race with Carson, of course, thinking about that too. This is a horse that, while Gregory DePrima doesn't necessarily have excellent stats in turf sprints, and that's to put it mildly, this is just such a well-spotted horse in a spot like this today, because if you look at some of the numbers that this one has run as well, in comparison to the rest of this field, as well as the company that this horse has kept, all the things you mentioned, 3rd start of the awful layoff, a slight cut back in distance too, there's just a lot going for this one. And I think that your favorite right now in the number 2, Luna's Warrior, would have to take a step forward, whereas this one's getting that class relief too.
We just saw Tyler Gaffney leave the screen on the 1. KB, see you later. There's not a lot of speed in this race, Mig. This horse coming out of a stakes race, the way he broke his maiden first time on the turf, he went gate to wire, comes in fresh as well for his 3-year-old debut. He's going to be fast out of the gate.
Well, and especially with the rail. I mean, it is a greater sense of urgency, right, to hold your position. For me, when I was riding, it always simplified things. I was coming out running from the inside. I wasn't going to be dictated the terms, where I was going to be. I was going to put myself in the fray. And if someone was fast enough to outrun me, well, then they were going to have to be fast enough to outrun me.
Yeah, I saw a little bit more speed on paper. Of course, things don't always play out that way. I thought Hatch would be a little bit more forwardly placed. Even Dad's good runner from the outside has to make some decisions early. But I agree that the rail post does simplify things for a horse that showed that good speed as a 2-year-old. And of course, there's always that natural progression, 2 to 3. You expect horses to generally take a step forwards.
Javier Castellano, we saw just move in on the favorite, Luna Warrior, 2-1. Coming off that maiden claiming victory. First try against winners and the horse to beat here for the barn of Jose D'Angelo. Here's Hatch wearing a hood again for trainer Carlos Martin. And getting the assistance to the starting gate crew and Junior Alvarado into the starting gate.
Junior Alvarado with a pickup mount yesterday. Fredo, be very aggressive, go gate to wire. And you know, sometimes when you win races like that, you have a tendency to be more aggressive. Hey, that worked out good. Let me continue like this.
He's got some natural speed, too. I mean, he's certainly not slow early, and if you have that mindset going into it with a horse that's already going to bring you there, could be a contributing factor to be extremely forwardly placed in this short sprint race.
I'm shocked right now. I was waiting for the Godfather pun to come from you. We didn't get one.
Fredo?
No, come on.
We got it yesterday, though.
Well, if I pick the winner here, I'll say, I'm smart, not dumb like everybody says. I want respect, Greg. I'm your older analyst.
Senior.
I'd never take you out on a lake. We're set for race 3. Let's go to Frank Miramonte for the call.
Last one to load is El Conejito. They're in the gate. A little bit of movement from KB. See you later. They're off. KB. See you later came out okay. So did War Terminator on the far outside, flashing some early zip in the opening furlong. So it will be KB. See you later. Devil's Only Friend now moves into second. They are followed on the inside by Carpe's Dream, who's a joint third moving into the far turn. El Conejito now takes that third spot, puts some pressure on the top pair. Volkert in the green colors is just behind them too. Then comes War Terminator. Luna Warrior is about 6 lengths off the lead. Hatch is next. The opening quarter went in 21 3/5 seconds. They're followed by Starry Night. Basis Risk is next. It's another 3 to Isocline and Excess Demand. They're at the top of the stretch, and it's a wide open scramble. Center of the course, Luna Warrior is finishing well. He and Volkert squaring off at the furlong pole. In the center comes War Terminator coming after the top pair in third. It's Volkert. Volkert digging in inside Luna Warrior. Volkert, Luna Warrior. It will be Volkert. That's 2 for Dylan Davis. Luna Warrior was second. Starry Night finished third. Photo between Devil's Only Friend and War Terminator.
Volkert finishing best here in the third, and 2 early on for Dylan Davis.
Yeah, and I see Dylan get another one back-to-back here. Delivered another solid ride. Sometimes statistics don't always tell the whole story, whether someone's riding good or bad or not. It's so competitive, so tough up here. Looked like Starry Night was going right on by. Is that Starry? No, I'm sorry. That's
Luna Warrior.
No, Luna Warrior, excuse me. And Volkert, under strong handling from Dylan, fought right back and found more to get it done.
Yeah, he's one that actually broke his maiden at a huge price as well. He was 60-something to 1 that day over horses we've seen a lot on this New York circuit. Set a great trip, well handled in here as the pace was coming apart in the later stages. And while there were so many class droppers in this race, it was actually one that we'd seen run pretty well at this kind of level in the past.
25 to 1, and now 6 wins at the meet after a 2-win day early on here for Dylan Davis.
Yeah, so Dylan really kind of heating up here, riding well. And third winner of the meet for Mark Hennig. He had a bit of a tough Belmont meet, so Mark really kind of hitting on all cylinders since we got up to the spot.
And a rider we talked a lot about earlier on this year. He went through some struggles for quite a while, especially that Belmont meet, and then all of a sudden he really started to turn things around mid to late meet.
When Dylan is riding well, he's aggressive. He puts horses in the game. It's something he and I talked about at great length. Certain principles of riding. Getting your position going forward, saving ground, finding live cover, staying disciplined about being inside, not looking to go to the right when the race is going forward, not putting too much pressure on a horse's mouth, 5 pounds of pressure, not 10. When Dylan adheres to those principles is when he rides his best. When he doesn't ride as well, he slides back into older habits, and to me, that just is some complacency. He's riding very well right now.
There's Mark Hennig, glasses atop his head. And a nice summer start for him in his barn with his son of Bayern here, getting his second win on the turf at a big price. If you're alive at this Pick 5, this is a tremendous beginning with 2 legs still to go.
Yeah, looking juicy so far. Just like yesterday, some really good prices early on in the card. The racing here is just so competitive that when you find these live prices and you can string them together, you're going to get paid for it.
Very few tickets alive 3 legs in. Here on a day of early on, some upsets here. It's the biggest one so far. We're going to take a timeout. When we come back, Brad Cox pulled off that Jim Dandy Travers double with his 2-year-old champ, Essential Quality. He's got Angel of Empire trying to do the same. Going to get the first part of it coming up.
Grade 1 winner and track record setter Lee. Like their sire, his runners have excelled on both dirt and turf, including these standout performers.
Poppy Flowers putting in a late burst here. They come for the finish. Here is Nagarok, who takes off. Nagarok will roll. Nagarok.
Out of a Galileo mare, this dual surface star has sired juvenile stakes winners on both dirt and turf. Lee, standing at Claiborne Farm.
Experience the adrenaline-pumping, suspense-filled action of the Sport of Kings no matter where you are with Naira Bets. It's fast, easy, and secure. Download the app today and start winning with our lucrative weekly promotions, thrilling handicapping contests, and a one-of-a-kind VIP rewards program. Don't just watch horse racing, be a part of the action with Naira Bets. We are back on Saratoga Live at the premier meet in the country. Good to have you with us on our FS1 coverage. It's presented by Claiborne Farm. 100 years of doing the usual unusually well. Dylan Davis with an unusually good start to this Saturday card. 2 victories through the first 3 races here on a 25-1 shot. Let's go to Acacia.
And Dylan joining me now as Volker gets the win. Dylan, you rode this horse last time when he was actually the favorite. Today at 25-1. What did you feel from last time to today?
Well, last time I didn't get the trip I wanted. It never really opened up. And not till like the last 70 yards, 16th pole, he was able to get clear. it was really tough to close in from there. But today, I was able to get a clear trip. He broke well with me. It was very comfortable. I had him where I wanted him, and he was very comfortable. And I was able to move when I wanted to and had a clear spot when I needed it. And that's what counted today, and I was able to get the job done.
We always talk about trips in turf racing. How important is that, being able to get that clear sailing when you need it?
Oh, it means everything, especially turf. You're trying to plan out what you wanted and what you think is going to happen out there. When the gates open up, you're not really sure, so that's my job to figure it out there. And you have to have a little bit of luck. You can't force your way through or whichever, but you try to put yourself in a good spot where you think it's going to work out down the lane.
2-win day so far at Saratoga, and you had a really special 2-year-old winner with Carson's Run, that great story. How exciting are 2-year-old wins at the spa?
No, it's very exciting, especially when first time out up here. It's a tough competition, and you're excited to see what the future holds.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks.
All right, Greg, we'll see if he can keep the momentum going. Pick up some more on this Saturday.
Great to see from Dylan Davis. It's really become a different rider over about the last year and a half. $53 winner here, this pick 3. $585 to start the Saturday card.
We have 9 more races to go too. Dylan's participating in 7 of them. He's on several long shots, but we just saw him win on a long shot. So when you get going good, sometimes good things just happen.
Absolutely, and having those moves of aggressivity more so than passivity always generally has good things happen to you. Dylan able to do his best riding when he makes more aggressive decisions. That's something you mentioned, something I happen to agree with.
Big one in the 3-year-old division coming up later today. 3-year-olds final prep before the Travers. Inaugural running back in 1964. Fastest edition ever run. Preakness winner Louis Quatorze for Nick Zito back in 1996 with Pat Day aboard. 3 owners have won it 3 times in their career, including the Melnicks, who had Flower Alley, who would go on to win the Travers later that summer. 6 wins for Todd Pletcher, his last coming back in 2013 with his Belmont winner, Palace Malice. 3 jockeys have won it 4 times. Johnny V, he won 3 in a row for Todd Pletcher. 7 Jim Dandy winners named champion 3-year-old, including that brilliant second half of the year from Arts and Letters. One of the most dominant second half of the years by a 3-year-old we've ever seen. 4 Dandy winners named Horse of the Year, 2 in the Hall of Fame. Triple Crown winner, affirmed, and then Arts and Letters in 1994, and affirmed, of course, 1978. What a year he had. What a race that will set us up for the Travers. We saw what happened in the Haskell. We'll wait and see if Go Rocket Ride shows up for the Travers. We know that Kentucky Derby winner Mage is going to show up. He was a word short, reportedly, going into that Haskell. We'll see what everyone does here in the Jim Dandy heading to the Travers, presented by DK Horse. Let's meet this field, starting off with Steve Asmussen's Disarm, who just came off a win in a Grade 3 at Ellis.
I'm seeing a very similar past performance line to his sire, Gunrunner, who's just been an incredible sire. Ran well in the Derby. He finished 3rd. Disarm finished 4th. Both came back to win the Matt win, and then what they go on to do, it'll be interesting to see him if he takes a step forward. I like him.
Here's the 2-year-old champ, Forte, the blinkers going on today.
And the hope is that he doesn't have those starts and stops at his run like we saw in the Florida Derby as well as the Belmont Stakes. We're looking at a product that's already pretty darn good so far. If he can take another step forward with that equipment change, he's already at the top of the class right now.
3, low lineup for Brad Cox. Here's the first of that trio hit show.
Hickory shows up every time, like this colt. He's honest. I like my people the way I like my horses. Honest and hardworking. That's Hit Show.
How about a horse who is blazing fast and is going to be likely alone on the lead in this race? That's Saudi Crown.
Sneaky late entry to this field makes it 3 for trainer Brad Cox, and he's got the speed to be the lone speed. He'll have to go a little bit further in distance, but what a game effort last time out in that Dwyer, and really kind of the horse to beat now.
And Grade 1 winner from the Arkansas Derby, 3rd place finisher in the Kentucky Derby, Angel of Empire.
Ran well in the Kentucky Derby, ran well in the Belmont Stakes. I just felt like in the Derby he might have flattened out a little. I thought he had a terrific trip, but he's a major player here, going the 1 1/8.
1/2 of his starts. We know he'll be running late. Will it be enough? There in this Jim Dandy. Well, let's talk about this new shooter and arrival on the scene in the 3-year-old division. We know he's going to be likely, unless he stumbles out of the gate, the horse in front, probably by himself. He ran so fast in that Grade 3 Dwyer in the nose defeat to Fort Bragg. can he get the distance? It's a major question.
Well, that's what's going to be interesting here, because going the mile, he set very fast fractions, and he doesn't seem like the type that kicks clear and his ears come up and he idles. He seems like he runs into the bridle pretty hard the whole way. Now, I love the fight he showed here, because it looked like he was absolutely going to be drowned at the 8th pole, and then he fought back. Going 2 turns the first time, horse will jump out, run to that turn aggressively the way he did down that Belmont backstretch, and sometimes that turn backs them off, and their ears will come up, and then they'll float along. That's why a lot of times you see a horse stretching out to 2 turns the first time, that's a natural speed horse, is the best time, because that first turn takes them off the bridle and they settle more.
And if he does that today, maybe that helps him get this longer distance in this race, because it's possible that he ends up being one of the better horses going forwards into the rest of this summer in what is a wide open division. It really did look like Fort Bragg was going to completely swallow him up on the turn. He fought on very gamely to the wire, and I like him a lot in this spot coming up in today's Jim Dandy.
With more on our big one later today, let's go to Acacia.
I'm so happy to be joined by Johnny Avello, Director of Race and Sportsbook Operations for DraftKings. And Johnny, this is the first time we're seeing DK making its appearance as a Jim Dandy sponsor. Can you tell us a little bit about the relationship?
Sure. First of all, delighted to be here. Love this place, been coming here a very long time. We've been in operation now, the DraftKings app, DK, it's called DK Horse. I've been in operation now for about 4 or 5 months. Things are going extremely well. You know, Saratoga is a place that everybody wants to come to and watch horse racing. It's one of the prominent places in the world, so to speak. And so we thought that why not come here and launch our product for everyone to see. And so far, so good.
Good exposure for you. And what does it mean for the fans to have this kind of relationship?
Well, for the fans, they get to download the app, they get to bet at the track if they want, or they can bet from the comfort of their home on FS1 or Fox Sports, or Fox Sports. So it's a great product. We're very proud of it. We're proud of all the products that we have out there, and so happy to be in a horse game.
And we love having you as well. So I got to ask, who's your pick for this year's Jim Dandy?
I'm going to stick with Angel. And the reason I say stick with, I bet Angel in the Derby, I bet Angel in the Belmont, and I'm going to stick with Angel again. We all know how 3-year-olds progress. They're all progressing, and hopefully Angel's progressing better than the other 4 are.
Well, best of luck. We're so lucky to have your partnership, and thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Naira. Thanks for having us.
Greg, you heard it here first. Angel of Empire in the Jim Dandy.
We will see. As we've said, things can change a lot the second half of the year of this 3-year-old division as these horses continue to grow up and mature. You'll see live coverage later today on Fox. Coverage begins at 3 Eastern time for that showdown in the 3-year-old division. As we move on to race 4, look at the current odds. 6 furlongs, main track, $40,000 maiden claiming race. Coming up, we'll have more on this field when we return. We're going to take a timeout. He was a college basketball player. Spent part of his time just 30 miles south of Saratoga at Siena College. Once scored 51 points in a game. We'll introduce you to Kinnan LaRose. He's become a key part of the Tom Amos stable. How'd that happen? The story next.
Introducing Giftbox, winner of the Grade 1 Santa Anita Handicap. He's a 3-time graded stakes-winning millionaire with 4 triple-digit buyers and a 4 Ragazin to his name. He proved himself early as a graded stakes place 2-year-old, and now his career as a stallion is just getting started. From the first crop of the leading sire Twirling Candy out of a multiple graded stakes producing mare. Giftbox, only at Lane's End.
Off and running. Introducing the most electrifying horse racing app to hit Saratoga, DK Horse, brought to you by DraftKings. Choose from hundreds of tracks around the world. Pick your favorite horses to win and take advantage of daily promotions. Watch races and more live right on the app to see your results. New customers get a 100% deposit match up to $250 when they sign up with code DK. Don't stay in the starting gate. Get in the race and charge ahead with DK Horse, America's #1 downloaded horse betting app.
Maximum Security proves he's the real deal with a gate-to-wire win in the Florida Derby.
Champion 3-year-old.
Maximum Security has won the TVG.com Haskell Invitational.
11 triple-digit buyers.
Maximum Security. He smoked them in the Cigar Mile.
Grade 1 winning 4-year-old.
Maximum Security takes them all the way in the TVG Pacific Classic.
Maximum Security.
$500,000 in the back. Thank you.
Oh, what a Preakness! It's National Treasure who gets the lead late.
$1 million in the back. Thank you.
Flight line, then full flight. Flight line, 20 lengths.
Flight line and a jaw-dropping, awe-inspiring Raiders Cup Classic win.
The 102nd Saratoga sale, August 7th and 8th in Saratoga Springs, New York. Where will you be?
Back with you on Saratoga Live on a special Saturday here at this historic meet in upstate New York. Jim Dandy still to come. Grade 1 Vanderbilt for older sprinters. Still ahead on the card. Right now it's race 4 up next. 6 furlong sprint. $40,000 maiden claiming race. And our colleague Tom Amos with this 11 filly who we just claimed last time out. Our Tyler Gaffleone aboard. We're going to meet part of Tom's team behind the scenes. By his senior season at Sacred Heart, Kindon LaRose had become the captain of his college basketball team, but he was unsure of what path he was going to take going forward. On a whim, he sent an email to trainer Tom Amos, never expecting a response. What happened next forever changed his path going forward.
Grew up coming to Saratoga and different little tracks and a lot of harness tracks up in Canada. I'm from a small town, Ogdensburg, New York, way up north. And I played basketball for 5 years at Sacred Heart University in Fairfield, Connecticut. I was going to try to play professionally. I signed with an agent. Unfortunately, it just didn't really work out for me. Every summer, I'd be sitting in my living room. If we're not playing basketball or running around, we were watching the races, putting on Fox Sports, and that's how I heard about Tom Amos. So I sent him a cover letter, a resume, and Tom called me the next morning. And November 2020, I packed up all my stuff, moved down to Louisville, Kentucky. I literally touched my first horse when I got to Churchill Downs and started walking hots for Tom. You know, there's a lot of what ifs, what could have happened if I kept playing, but at the same time, I'm happy where I'm at.
There he is, and for those who have met Kindon, such a great young man. He's positive energy, and you know, I talked about it earlier. Obviously very talented basketball player, is the captain of his team. He scored 51 points in a game at one point at the college level.
Yeah, it's terrific. And we were by the barn this morning, and it just as nice a young man as you're going to meet. And I love the fact that he reached out. He wrote a letter, and Tom responded to him, and now he's kind of opened a whole new chapter in his life, Sarah.
And just to have the confidence to be like, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to be a part of, and to send that kind of message over to someone that you've just seen on TV. It's really cool stuff, and it's kind of like how I got started in this business, just throwing a couple opinions out there online and having the ability to then have that turn into something you would never expect. Of course, I'm not quite the college basketball star to begin with, but just really cool to see someone want something and go for it like that. Really incredible stuff.
Tom said he considers him one of the top assistants in his barn. That's how quickly he's risen. And I guess his basketball skills are legit because Kieran McLaughlin has already recruited him to play in the jockey trainer game.
Wait, timeout. So he's going to play for the Horsemen against the jockeys.
Yes, he is. Look out. I don't care if they have Manny Franco.
The riders need him as a ringer. The trainers don't need him as a ringer. They've got height on their side already. The jockey's got the athleticism and the speed, but those guys got the height.
That's going to be a game we're going to need to watch this summer. It's fun every year, but now they got Kindon LaRose on the squad. The trainers might tip in their favor. Post-parade we'll get to in a moment. Let's get a paddock report from Acacia first.
And Greg, I think the trainers need all the help they can get, as the jockeys are much more athletic, but looking forward to that. And talking about horses here, we'll start to the rail with a second-time starter, Best Coast, which, as we know, I believe is the East Coast. But this one ran in a $100,000 maiden claiming race in her first start, and she does drop in for 40 today, plus a little cutback. She has some good size to her, so I can understand going 7 furlongs, but doing such at first asking is very tough, and she showed some speed before weakening, hanging on that left lead. Just a lot of greenness in that first start, and she's very sharp here in the paddock too. She was a little bit agitated after they put the tack on. She's been kind of swishing her tail and throwing her head around, which I don't love to see, but she's very strong. Looks a picture of health in here, so hopefully she settles a little bit as they head out to post. The number 1 Super Slews Cash, part of the entry, goes back to dirt for the first time since that debut, and takes a drop in class as well. Layoff to contend with, but she looks incredibly fit coming in off the bench. And this is the one of the entry that I do really prefer. So athletic, a beautiful coat, well turned out, and I'm intrigued by her trying the main track once again. Hopefully she's improved mentally and maybe just as an athlete so far. The number 6 Party at Grants is one of 2 for Linda Rice and off the claim, and this one ran quite well at Churchill, going longer, so she cuts back in distance from a live race with Luna Moss coming back to win after that too. She was very green, and she's had trouble getting out of the gate, this filly, as well, but she's on her toes in here. She's been sharp throughout, and as Jose Ortiz climbs aboard, she has a tendency, I remember covering that last race at Churchill, to not be great loading into the gate and just really lacking focus at that point. So I'm going to watch what kind of warm-up she gets, and hopefully she can have a little bit more focus at the load and at the break.
Thank you, Keisha. 4 minutes to post here coming up in a wide open race to on a day where we've seen 7-1, 5-1, and 25-1 to start off this card.
Well,
open betting board too.
This, to me, this race was such a head scratcher. I looked at this race until I was cross-eyed, and I'm still not sure who I like.
A lot going on in here, and as we see right now, the wagering public still not settled on who they think is the likeliest winner either. You've got the entry taking a little money. You've got both halves of Linda Rice's uncoupled entry taking a little money. There's a lot of angles going on, and this is a pretty open affair.
And the man front and center of your screen right there, Rat Ortiz Jr., that blazing start to this meet, leading the way with 22 victories. Looked like he is, I mean, we're in week 3, was going to run away with his riding title. He was doubled up on his next closest competitor here, and all of a sudden Luis Saez started to close that gap, got 15 wins.
Luis Saez, you talked about a horse earlier being kind of a relentless kind of runner. He's relentless. You don't relax, because Louis is going to be there. If you look back, you're going to see Luis Saez. He's not going to give up, and he rides consistently hard every single day.
Post parade coming up, and we'll kick things off with the meet's leading rider. See that tremendous crowd on hand here for the Saturday action. Rat Ortiz Jr. on Super Slews Cash, the one who's going to break from post 4.
Yeah, sprinted here last year in maiden allowance, showed brief speed before stopping, then tried turf, tried synthetics, been off, in for a tag here.
Post 9 for the entry mate, Javier Castellano on Super Tropical.
Yeah, Johnny Velasquez still off of his mounts. This horse has been running well on turf. The mare really has never produced anything that's run particularly well on dirt.
Here's Best Coast with the rail for Brad Cox.
Slight cut back in distance for this one. Ran on debut for a $100,000 tag at Ellis, going 7 furlongs. Can take another step forward second time out, but do think would need to do so.
Meets leading trainer Linda Rice. Just claim this one, Mooney.
It's a major player. This horse ran 2 good races for the same level. Back-to-back, was claimed by Linda from a good barn, but I think a major player.
First time on dirt for Keep It Sexy, blinkers on.
And big dirt pedigrees should appreciate a cutback in distance as well. A lot changing for this horse in a new barn. A little bit of a wise guy player, taking a lot of money off that morning line too.
Ratified at 18-1, big price here with Joel Rosario.
Yeah, ran evenly last time, going 5 furlongs on the turf. Some dirt races that would put this horse in the frame.
Linda Rice with Party at Grants as well, Jose Ortiz.
Another one cutting back in distance, very tepid favorite right now. We know how hot this barn has been first off the claim for Linda.
Biggest price on the board, the 8 Dramatic Effect, a first-time starter.
This one hasn't run yet, first-time starter, very modest pedigree. We'll see how this one goes. Not necessarily connections that you think of firing first time out.
Dylan Davis looking for number 3. It's a big long shot here.
Well, he won on a big long shot just now, and now he got a 26-1 shot. Won on a 25-1 shot last time.
Here's the one Luis Saez was expected to ride. Cherokee Cottage just dropped Saez, but the outrider able to catch up to him.
missing a key component to doing well in this race at the moment, but another first-time starter, and certainly one that, you know, we'll see how this one does getting reunited with the jockey. You don't love to see that right away, though.
That filly for Bill Mott making her debut. And here's Corner Kick, the Tom Amoss runner. We had that story on Kinnan LaRose, his top assistant here, and he has Tyler Gaffleone aboard.
I love the appearance this horse made, albeit watching him on TV in the paddock. Like what I'm seeing in the warm-up. Corner Kick, first start for Tom Amoss. I'm elevating this horse from what I'm seeing from a physical perspective.
And there's Luis Saez patiently waiting to see if he will have a mount coming up in this race.
Yeah, it looks like he didn't go that far, and they're bringing the horse back to him. He's waiting patiently on the racetrack, and horses, you could see being a little bit obstinate with the pony, and sometimes that's one of the things. Horses, they may do good things properly in the morning, but then in the afternoon, there's so many new things, and they're looking at different things, and they get handed off to the pony. They might react negatively, even if they've been schooled with them.
And this is a big day to make your debut as well. There's a lot going on. There's some potential weather happening. There's a big crowd on hand. There's a lot of stimulus for a horse that's just starting out for the first time. So possibly can be forgiving of an effort like this if it's not quite up to snuff.
With more on this filly, let's go to Acacia.
This happened to poor Luis Saez yesterday, but that horse made it halfway around the racetrack before they apprehended him. And today, luckily, once again, Louis, who is so athletic, landed right on his feet, and they were able to apprehend the number 10 Cherokee Cottage pretty quickly, just a little bit past the 16th pole, and is jogging back now, and Louis is about to get a leg back up. And this was a horse that was very green back in the paddock as well, very green heading out, and of course will be, as you can see, examined by the attending veterinarian. It looks like A-okay, but given how distracted and green she is, I'm definitely going to take the wait and see approach with her. Talking about distracted, though, the number 4, Keep It Sexy, who does get on the dirt for the first time with a big dirt pedigree, as Sarah touched on. The blinkers go on, and Maggie Wolfendale just let me know that this horse was actually a late scratch Belmont week after freaking out at the gate. And this horse, she has been really sharp and really keyed here once again. So we have a couple of fillies in here who are perhaps lacking that focus, can be a little bit naughty at the gate. So keep your eyes on this one. She's been keyed throughout. They add small cheater cut blinkers. Physically, I certainly don't mind her going to the main track, and you see Jamie Torres has his feet out of the irons, trying to keep her relaxed, and she's settled a bit now. But in particular, Greg, watch her loading into the gate.
All right, something to keep our eyes on. And we learned about a good gate break from Mig earlier in the program, those watching on our FS2 coverage.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to pick up those tricks of the trade to be successful out of the gate?
Well, you learn as a kid to break horses out of the gate, and you're trying to pick up from more experienced exercise riders. Always exciting when you're a kid and you get to work a horse out of the gate with a jockey. As a kid, I broke horses at the quarter horse track, Par Meadows. Actually, with a thoroughbred rider named Mary Bacon would come out, and I actually get to work horses with her. But it's when you start riding and you kind of get into a rhythm with it, and the things you feel in the gate, you start to understand more. And it's just a different kind of communication with you and your horse when you've ridden thousands of races, and you really kind of get to that point where you can feel them completely balanced and square in the gate.
Loading up for this 4th. And here's a look at Best Coast. Put in a middle move in that debut at Ellis. Tough race to try and debut at 7/8 of a mile. Start number 2 coming up here with Florent Giroux.
And you think that Brad Cox, he spots his horses so well. He's poised for a really big day throughout the rest of today's card. And this one is likely to take that other step forward, now making her 2nd start. It's a difficult distance, as you touched on. Perhaps she gets a little bit better with the slight cutback and being a little bit sharper early, not having as much work to do.
Saw Party at Grant step in the 6. 1 of 2 in here for Linda Rice. She's got the 3 Mooney as well with Jose Lezcano, who just stepped into the gate. Big long shot, graceful Dylan Davis, that rider. One of the stories early on this Saturday card with a couple of victories. We are set for the 4th. Let's go upstairs. Frank Miramati with the call.
Okay, Greg, here come the entry of Super Slews Cash and Super Tropical. Now waiting on Ratified, Cherokee Cottage. Incredible job by the outrider to keep her in the race. Corner Kick will be the last one to load. going in. They're in the gate. And they're off. Fast start for Super Slews Cash in the center, joined and passed at the rail by Best Coast. Best Coast sprints a length and a half clear. Mooney is up and on the pace. Corner Kick far outside is next. And then Super Tropical about 3 lengths off the speed. Ratified moves up in between rivals to take the second spot. Keep It Sexy and Cherokee Cottage about 7 lengths off the lead. It's then another couple of lengths back to Graceful around the far turn, who is 5 lengths clear of Party at Grants and Dramatic Effect at the back of a strung out field. 22-3 for the opening quarter mile. Heads apart on the front end. It's Corner Kick on the outside. And Best Coast 3 lengths back to Ratified in third. Then Super Slews Cash 3/16 of a mile to go. And it's Corner Kick on the outside with the upper hand. Best Coast fully extended. Back to second as Corner Kick opens up and waves goodbye. It's all Corner Kick. All by herself. Corner Kick lets it out a notch through the stretch to win by 7 widening lengths. Photo for second. Party at Grants, who was so far out of it, in a photo with Best Coast. Behind them, Super Tropical.
Off the claim, Tom Amos Barn, Tyler Gaffleone. Corner Kick at 9-2.
Horse she made such a beautiful impression in the paddock and on the racetrack, and she was just cruising around the turn. You're watching the horse on the lead and watching Corner Kick, and just look at the posture of the two riders. A rider inside, Florent Drew's already asking and moving his hands, and you see Tyler with that long hold just starting to pick up Corner Kick here, and she kicks away as much the best. And I guess that 46-3 bullet work on July 23rd kind of tipped the hand that Corner Kick is going to be tough.
Well, she's had a couple of bullet works, too. I mean, if you look at the pattern coming into this race, it's not as though that one was the only fast one, too. So a horse that really put this field away. With your number 2 horse, where you talk about the posture of the riders with Best Coast, this is a horse that didn't break quite as sharply, had to be hustled up into contention. And one of those moves of aggression, it didn't ultimately pay off, but what other choice was there to make? Though Corner Kick much the best in this field.
Yeah, probably that rushing up cost Best Coast second. Party at Grants was able to nip that one at the wire. The Corner Kick was very good. First time, Tom Amos claimed. Great job by our colleague. Have this one ready to roll. Second win of the meet with a limited number of starters.
Had that feature on one of his top assistants, Kinnan LaRose. And how often does that angle pay off? Story on a barn, and then they put him right into the winner's circle. We'll take credit. You're welcome.
I got to see the stats on that because I think they're pretty high.
9-2. It seems to work well on this program. 11-6, 2-1A. One of the most wide open races, certainly early on. We felt like going in, although it's been a wide open start to this entire card to this point.
Yeah, I thought this was the biggest handicapping conundrum of the day. To me, I liked Corner Kick, elevated this horse a lot watching her from a physical perspective. I still went with the 3, Mooney, because that's who I had picked last night. Probably should have called an audible.
I saw Tom took Kinnan out to dinner the other night. He's got to take him out again after this. Owes him a little extra after this performance, right? Got to credit that feature for the W.
And I hope he takes him to a good place.
Oh, he did. Tom takes care of those that work for him. 11-6, 2-1A. We'll be back right after this. Experience the adrenaline-pumping, suspense-filled action of the Sport of Kings no matter where you are with Naira Bets. It's fast, easy, and secure. Download the app today and start winning with our lucrative weekly promotions, thrilling handicapping contests, and a one-of-a-kind VIP rewards program. Don't just watch horse racing, be a part of the action with Naira Bets. Oh, no. Back with you on Saratoga Live. Tremendous crowd on hand for a big Saturday afternoon ahead. Grade 1 Vanderbilt for older sprinters. And the Jim Dandy in that 3-year-old division. Tom Amos into the winner's circle with a great claim here. Corner kick runs a huge effort first off the claim at 9-2 with Tyler Gaffley on aboard. Let's go to Acacia.
We love getting a chance to see Tom on this side of the microphone. Tom, corner kick with the victory today. What was it that you saw in her to dip in and have that claim?
Well, I just think that she was a horse that was progressing nicely, like a lot of horses do. She was lightly raced. The previous trainer, they did a great job with the horse. I just caught the horse at the right time.
She really framed up so beautifully in the warm-up, too. She's a kind of quintessential sprinter physique.
Yeah. Quarter horsey, you might say, in terms of her body. She's built like a running back. You know, that's what we like to see in the sprinters. And when she left the gate with authority, I was feeling really good about her chances.
We saw those very fast workouts, too. Was that kind of hinting to you that she just had a lot in the tank?
Well, I had a little hesitancy because I knew she was a good workhorse, but I certainly liked what she was showing us in the mornings. And I think that was telling in today's race.
Saw your wife Colleen, your daughter's here. It's always special to celebrate with a win with the family. Being a trainer, how special is that you get to bring your family into your job?
Well, I always discourage my girls from getting in sports, particularly horse racing. And now my youngest is works for the Breeders' Cup, does all their PR and social media. My other one is the basketball operations director for the Pelicans. So I didn't do a very good job there, but I'm proud of them both. And they're doing a great job. And really, just real quickly, I want to say these owners, Nikki and Dan Stronach, their first win at Saratoga. I can't wait to talk to them on the phone. I know they're real excited.
Here's to many more. Congratulations, Tom.
Appreciate it, Keisha.
All right, Greg, and we'll see this guy on the desk a little bit later on.
Yes, we will. He hasn't made the winning phone call yet?
He's a little busy, I guess.
Well, he had to take a picture. He had to do an interview. I mean, you know, give the guy a break.
Good for these owners. That's got to be special. I wish they could have been here to be in the winner's circle, but that's something here. What a claim to get a win like that. She won so impressively, too.
She won impressively, and now she's open to a starter allowance condition as well, so she can be protected. And, I mean, it's looking like a very good claim.
We're going to take a timeout. Obviously, that big showdown in the 3-year-old division ahead, but we got a monster rematch in the older sprint division coming up. The reigning sprint champ, Elite Power, trying to win an 8th in a row, going up again against Gunite for Steve Asmussen, last year's Amsterdam winner. We'll be back.
The sun shines bright on Caraconte. His first crops of racing age are showing brilliance on the racetrack with a high percentage of stakes winners. His versatility is evidenced by winners on all surfaces across the globe.
None above the law to win. Spenderella could not have been more impressive.
The sun shines bright on this value sire. Caraconte, standing at Gainesway.
We're off and running. Introducing the most electrifying horse racing app to hit Saratoga. DK Horse, brought to you by DraftKings. Choose from hundreds of tracks around the world. Pick your favorite horses to win. And take advantage of daily promotions. Watch races and more live right on the app to see your results. New customers get a 100% deposit match up to $250 when they sign up with code DK. Don't stay in the starting gate, get in the race and charge ahead with DK Horse, America's #1 downloaded horse betting app.
What makes Life is Good so exciting as a stallion prospect is his freakish talent. Really, really fast horse.
And Life is Good is set right out for the early lead.
He had so many different gears.
Life is Good is the winner.
Not only had the speed, but he's also able to carry that out. You know, win races like the Whitney and the Pegasus World Cup at 1 1/8 miles.
Life is Good! They ran him off their feet in the Pegasus!
To carry that speed over that type of distance is super impressive.
confidently ridden here by Joel Rosario. It is Jackie's Warrior who has the lead with 1/8 of a mile to the finish. Jackie's Warrior in front by 4 lengths. Knee deep in snow has moved into second. And Jackie's Warrior remains undefeated here at Saratoga, and he wins an unprecedented Grade 1 stakes at the Spa.
And the end of that sentence from John Imbriel, yeah, the first horse in the history of this racetrack to win Grade 1s here at 2, 3, and 4 years old. No one had ever accomplished that. Pretty incredible.
That is incredible. And, you know, he, as precocious as he was at 2, he became such an imposing individual as he got older. Just never seemed like things worked out for him when it came to Breeders' Cup time, but come Saratoga time, you had to deal with Jackie.
Oh, he was the man here, and we've seen Steve Asmussen be able to develop those horses from 2 and keep that kind of form going forwards. We're going to see it coming up later on today with Gunite. He's so capable with keeping them in that kind of top form and having them move forwards as they age too.
Now, Gunite, the only time he met Elite Power, it was in an international race, Saudi Arabia. He was beaten 3 1/4 lengths. Could it be a different story today?
Well, I guess it could be. I mean, I really respect Elite Power. He's on a mad tear. But we're looking at Gunite win here at Churchill Downs in the Aristides, and he was rallying from off the base. And I think that's what makes Gunite dangerous to Elite Power, is that I think he's just more tactical, Sarah.
Oh, I agree completely. I think that he's going to be in front of him early on, which will give him that edge. And while we've seen Elite Power really come to hand as being such this powerhouse for the Mott Barn, Gunite's overall body of work, he has some faster numbers in his past, and even as of late, that 108 Beyer speed figure, even a little bit of a step backwards from that, numbers-wise, puts him ahead of his main competition.
Depends on what numbers you look at. Other numbers you look at, these two aren't even in the same ballpark. Thorograph-wise, it's not even close. Elite Power's last 2 races, he is lengths better than Gunite.
Yeah, which is something that I appreciate, and one of the things I love about working with all of you is that I constantly learn, open my mind to different ideas. Looking at the Thorograph, he's run -5s back to back.
It's incredible.
I mean, it's just head and shoulders.
Just to put that in perspective, Jackie's Warrior once ran a -4.
Once.
Only once in his career. He 4 times in his career ran a -2. Put back-to-back -5 races together. I mean, that is lofty territory.
And the way he, loomed up and looped by horses in the true north, and do it as easily as he did. And this was off of a layoff since he, had been running abroad. Now he comes back here, and I thought, looking at him in the paddock that day, he'll be better for a race, and he won pretty handily that day.
And we have that rumored sort of Dubai, Saudi Arabia bounce when you have those horses come back from the Middle East and sort of needing a race. Not the case for either of these two as they go on to face each other again today. And I think you bring up a great point that there's all sorts of different data sets that you can look at, and maybe this one has him ahead, maybe Beyer has Gunite ahead. Ultimately, really just looking forward to a showdown between the 2 of them, and we've had those kinds of showdowns so far that we've been treated to this meet. Some really good matchups. Haven't disappointed yet. I don't think we're going to be disappointed by this one going ahead. And there's some other horses that aren't too bad going into that race as well, aside from those 2 main ones.
Look at what these 2 have produced, though, and yeah, it is going to be fun to see these 2 go head-to-head again. And we may see this rivalry continue to play out at least a couple more times over the course of the year.
I think that when horses get to compete against each other on a consistent basis, and we create these rivalries, or these rivalries are created, I think that inspires people. I think that draws fans. I think that makes fans of people. I know it did with me as a kid. Affirmed and Aladar, what Forgo started, Affirmed and Aladar absolutely finished. I was going to be in racing because of those horses. Now we've got some thunder rumbling in the background. It's gotten a bit darker. Here, a storm can pass through and disappear, or, we can get it back and forth. So,
Sarah, if we get a wet track, we see Gunite 2 for 3 on a wet track. Does that change things at all for you in this race?
Well, I already like him a little bit, so of course it makes me like him a little bit more, knowing that he has that capability to handle some sort of wet surface. And it depends on what kind of rain we get. You know, is it going to be that quick passing through type of storm? Or are we going to see some sort of downpour play out for the rest of the day? It's Saratoga, and we don't know until we see it. But of course, it gives me confidence, if I already like a horse, to know that this will not deter them from running their best race.
Just fun to see a horse reel off wins like this, too, with the Sprint Champ Elite Power at the highest level. No matter where when you put a streak together like that, he's doing at the highest level, it starts to garner a lot of attention for the man known for the most famous win streak in the history of the sport.
Yeah, Bill Mott trained Cigar, and how many he won in a row. And Bill Mott won the first Dubai World Cup with Cigar. So if anybody has a handle on getting horses back from the Mid-East and have them in good form, it's Bill Mott.
Gunite, though, a horse Tyler Gaffalione back aboard today. He said, Sarah, he loves to dig in and have a fight. He's going to get a fight today.
He will. It's going to be exciting to see these two come down to the wire. Who ultimately gets the better, we'll find out later on. But I'm really looking forward to this race, as well as the Jim Dandy, of course.
We hear some of that thunder rumbling already. Fifth is next when we come back here on Saratoga Live. Stay with us.
Speightstown. Munning. Echo Town.
It's Echo Town for Joe Alamo, and Echo Town raced away. And Echo Town is drawing away in the stretch. Echo Town wins the Allen Jerkin Stakes.
A sire line so prolific, it repeats itself. Echo Town.
Welcome back to Saratoga Live, brought to you by Hillendale at Alapa, where the obscure becomes obvious as horses are making their way out of the paddock for the fifth. We'll start to the outside with your favorite, Good Sam. Now, she obviously has quite a bit of ability, but if you watch back her replays, you can see that she's not the easiest horse to ride, and she's pretty quirky. Last time out in particular, she was kind of running with her tail straight out. Once again, started swishing it late, and she almost kind of got herself beat that day. From the moment she came into the paddock, she was switching her tail. They saddled her with the pony. She was very tough last year as a 2-year-old to saddle, and she settled a bit more. I just really do wonder if she just has these quirks that are holding her back a little bit and making her a bit tricky to kind of channel some of that early energy, as we do have the horses starting to make another circle here in the paddock. I'm not sure if that's due to the weather, but I will get an update as soon as possible. Moving on to the number 4 on the 1s and 2s, off of a big layoff for Norm Cassie. We haven't seen her since that win at Churchill in June of 2022. Looking at the Clocker report, she was working in that most recent work in company with an unraced 2-year-old and started off a bit slow, but finished much better than her company. And she has grown and filled out now as a 4-year-old. She's sharp. She's another one. I haven't seen her since she was a 2-year-old, and she was a little bit naughty back then. And while she hasn't done anything badly here, you can see that she's still that very energetic type. Of course, the layoff is a big question. She does look strong and well-muscled coming back. The front wraps do stay on, and we'll see if she can be ready to roll. She obviously has early speed and ended things on a good note. We just haven't seen her since then. The number 6, Sterling Silver. I know that she comes off of 2 defeats, but one was going a mile and a 16th, one going 6 furlongs, and both in New York Bred Stakes Company. I think she's a remarkably consistent filly that kind of runs to her competition no matter where she is, and maybe not the most winningest type, but she has faced some very good company. The in-form Can't Hurry Love and Granny's Connections in her running line last time, and I love the 7 furlongs for her. I think that's the perfect distance. She's striding out beautifully here in the paddock, and as they've brought the horses back over to the saddling stalls, it looks, Greg, like we're going to have a little delay.
Yeah, Keisha, thank you. Frank Miramati, track announcer, just said over the loudspeaker, horses going to remain in the paddock here with, it looks like, some weather passing through the area.
Yeah, rain's not the issue. It's always lightning. We'll race in the rain, we'll race in the snow.
Take a look at what we have to deal with here. That's the blue dot where we are. It's Mig's seat here on the set.
Yeah.
And being told that red area, that's not good.
That looks like that red area is pointed directly at us.
At you specifically.
But you see, you guys are in as much trouble as me because you're seated next to me. And as much metal as I have in me, if I get zapped, you're getting zapped too.
Yeah, we don't want to be close to Mig if the lightning starts coming down. But apparently it's heading north. If it stays due north, we're going to be okay.
I love our little weather segment that we get to go through. We get to take on the role of a different kind of analyst as we take a look at things. And of course, we want everybody to be safe and get through whatever weather is coming our way. And you know, as you've mentioned, it's not about the water. It's about all the other elements.
Yeah, the lightning's the biggest concern when it comes to horses. It feels like horses are an attraction to lightning. And then, of course, they're going into a metal starting gate. I mean, best, the most prudent thing to do is just to try to wait it out. If anybody has ever seen the roof here at Saratoga, and Saratoga is an older structure, it's wood, every 8 feet there's a lightning rod. And you and I were up there covering racing one day when a storm came through.
We worked up there for many summers, and whenever we heard lightning in the distance, they told us, get out of there.
Well, they told you, I already ran.
I was trying to catch up to you. And we had one summer here where just out of nowhere, I mean, just a monsoon came down. We wound up canceling the card. Those are rare, days like that, but it can happen up here.
Those are rare, but we're really in an interesting place, you know, geographically. We're in the foothills of the Adirondacks. We got the Catskills to the south. We've got the Green Mountains. You know, we're in between a bunch of mountain ranges, so sometimes you get a storm come through that wasn't expected, and it'll bounce off a mountain range and come back through. So you just really don't know what you're going to get.
You've gone through plenty of these, having ridden here many a year at Saratoga. How'd you use this time as a rider when you had a delay?
You socialize. Try to make mounts for another day, you know.
Do you want to get out there? Do you need a minute?
Nah, I'm good. I'm happy with my company right here. We got Jonathan Kinchin right off the set waiting to come on. I got you guys. Paul Leduc is over waiting in the wings. Me and Greg are going to be up in our bunker, cement.
Yeah.
Are you going back to the
No, I'm going to go hang out with Maggie and Norman if they're out and about. So I'm going to go brave the elements myself.
All right, well, you're back on with us at 6, so don't get soaking wet. You gotta make sure you get your rain gear.
Or struck by lightning.
There's Chad Brown. He's won the last 2 training titles here with Rat Ortiz Jr. And you consider the weather. We talk about the weather we have up here. It is pretty remarkable that he's been able to be as successful as he had up here, because primarily, he has some very good dirt horses, no question. He has a lot of very good turf horses. And I know last year we didn't have a lot of races come off the turf, but years past we have, and he's still been incredibly successful.
I think races coming off the grass hurt Chad Brown more in the trainer standings race than probably anybody else. But listen, they're all right in it. This is a marathon now. It's not a sprint. Years ago, Saratoga was 24 days, and the first week set the tone. If you got off to a fast start, you were going to be amongst the leaders at the end. It's changed quite a bit now, but Linda Rice hitting on all cylinders, Chad Brown, Todd Pletcher, you know, the usual suspects.
Absolutely, and him having those strong turf horses, it's nice to see that that's not all that's consistent in that stable. He's been able to branch out and have some pretty successful dirt horses as well, but I think that that's what he's mainly known for, and while he still has all of those turf horses in his barn, I think that he's just another trainer, just like Linda Rice, just like Todd Pletcher, and any good handicapper and horse player as well. You adapt. You make changes as time goes on, as weather happens, as things play out a certain way in the condition book, whatever happens in your barn, you're able to kind of adapt to your circumstances and make the most of it. And I think that's just kind of the hallmark of anybody who stays around in this game and is good at it throughout time.
You have to evolve, 100%. If you don't evolve and adapt, the game will pass you by, no doubt. And for anybody watching at home and you see the riders waiting it out in the paddock, you see a lot of them don't have goggles on. And it's not that they're not going to wear goggles. Junior's different, but you saw Tyler Gaffleone and we saw Irad Ortiz without goggles on. That means they weren't expecting to come out here and have rain. The valet did not put plastic covering over the goggles. So what they do is they put them down under their silks. So unbutton the silks, pull the goggles around their neck, and then button their silks over it so they stay dry on the way to the gate before they'll take them out and put them on.
We hear that ominous thunder up above us, and that just means the racing gods are angry. What did you guys say?
Well, I think they're trying to make a point because we saw New York thunder yesterday kind of steal the spotlight. So Mother Nature's thunder, maybe you want to take a little of that back.
His performance was lightning.
It was incredibly impressive, and that was his first start on dirt, and you know the argument was made that we'd have to improve on dirt, not only getting over to that surface, but having to have that be his best surface. And I think that's ultimately what we did see from this horse, just so fast out of the gate and really ran everybody else off their feet. And I think Drew's Gold ran his race. I think that Woody Stevens was backed up, but I think New York Thunder just was best.
Paul LaDuca brought it up on the show yesterday too. I know 6.5 furlong race, but it's for 6 furlongs, went the fastest 6 furlongs it's ever been here at Saratoga. That was just an incredible performance.
Yeah.
Is that the best performance we've seen in the meet so far?
I think you've got to look at that and Echo Zulu. Those two performances to me were just absolute standouts. But this horse kind of threw his hat into the ring. You know, of the top sprinters in the 3-year-old division, and the way he ran in any older horses as well. I mean, he is a major player the way he ran.
Yeah, I didn't see, maybe you did, Sarah, what that figure came back. I know Echo Zulu got a 112 by her speed figure for that performance when she took heat early on from that inside post from Frank Schrockett and still just drew away from that field. And now I think with that performance, Connections, they have to consider maybe not just the filly and mare sprint, maybe the sprint.
Absolutely, and that number did come back as a 110, I believe, for New York Thunder, so just slightly off. But when you think about some of the other top sprinters that we have, that's a number that if you follow those Beyer speed figures would have made him a competitor in today's Amsterdam.
It was impressive to watch. It was his first time on a dirt surface as well. Big one later today, Jim Dandy, presented by DK Horse. 5-horse field that is going to line up, including our 2-year-old champ, Forte. Mig, where are you going to wind up here?
I'm going with the 2-year-old champion, Forte. He's a horse adding blinkers. I've seen, to me, a horse that lacks focus at times. I think the blinkers had the desired effect watching him work. He's got a Hall of Fame conditioner in Todd Pletcher, who I spoke with about this yesterday, and he was very pleased with what he saw with the blinkers. And I just think it helps Irad Ortiz a great deal in how to ride him. You can judge what you have underneath you. Listen, he's the reigning 2-year-old champion. His campaign has been interrupted. You know, things just kind of went sideways at the Derby. I think he gets back on track today.
Fun to watch. And, of course, those blinkers on. See if he can improve with that, Sarah.
I'm going with that new shooter, Saudi Crown. I think that the early speed that we've seen from him makes him incredibly dangerous as one of 3 for trainer Brad Cox in this spot. And the number that he ran last time out in terms of Byers, a 106, really puts him right there with this level of competition. If he's alone up front and able to sustain that over this kind of distance, I just think he's incredibly dangerous as he tackles a pretty salty field. This is a compact field, but a really good one. Just looking forward to seeing the rest of the race.
Let's go to Acacia. Where are you going to wind up here?
Well, I'm on the same page as Sarah here with Saudi Crown. I know that he has to try and tackle a little bit more distance for the first time. And last time out in the Dwyer, it was his first time going the mile after back-to-back sprint races. So it will be a new element for him today as he does stretch out to the mile and an eighth and will go 2 turns for the first time. But with his running style, I really think that he's alone up front. And he ran so well last time. On pedigree, especially with the tappet on the bottom side, he should be able to handle a little bit more distance. And we'll see if he can take them every step. Still lightly raced, and the good thing about the Brad Cox runners, Greg, is they all have different running styles, so he'll have one at every stage of the race.
Yeah, that's one of the really neat storylines in this group. 3 runners from Brad Cox. One is going to be in front, one could be mid-pack, and one coming from the back of the pack.
Yeah, I think it's great when a stable has horses that complement each other's styles, right? You got the speed horse, you got the mid-division, and you got the deep closer. I think you've got to upgrade Disarm a great deal if we get a sloppy track, because I do think he looked sensational at Ellis Park, just skipping over the top of the ground in the slop.
Well, it's nice to know that you have that horse that is proven over that kind of track condition going into a big race like this. It's nice to have that confidence that they'll be able to handle this type of surface. But going back to what you said about Brad Cox's runners, just having all of his bases covered in terms of everybody's running styles, where they'll be placed, will be interesting to see. But of course, he's not going to want any of them to cancel each other out. And it doesn't look like they will, at least on paper.
And psychologically, it definitely helps Saudi Crown, because as a rider, you're aware that you have these 3 horses coming out of the same stable. So do you want to go engage him and potentially set it up for one of the other uncoupled stablemates? And you'll see horses get loose even more like that, because psychologically, riders like, well, all right, if I go after him, I'm setting it up for the other horse from his barn. They'll tend to wait a little bit longer.
Right, and with such a compact field, it's nice to know in a way that at least 2 of them, they're not going to go try to target him early. We'll see what the others 2 do, but they haven't been horses that have shown a ton of early speed either, so I just think things are so in his favor unless something happens at the gate, and you can't plan for that kind of stuff when you're handicapping.
So then the big question in the race becomes the 2-year-old champ, and it becomes all eyes on Arad Ortiz Jr. on Forte. So if you're him, how much of a worry is this horse getting away to a big league? Do you have to potentially take your horse out of his game?
Well, I think you really have to assess how Saudi Crown is traveling. To me, watching Saudi Crown, at least in a 1-turn mile at Belmont, he was a horse that didn't really float or idle when he hit the front. He was running into the bit pretty much all the way down the backstretch. Now, I spoke of it earlier. Sometimes horses will jump out into that first turn and they'll be aggressive, but then the turn backs them off.
Track condition just announced, good and sealed with a little bit of rain we have coming down to this point.
Well, it's good that they got the seal on the track, so it'll help them keep a lot of water from getting into it. So at least they had enough time for the track maintenance crew to prepare, seal the track. And what it is basically they roll the track instead of harrowing it, and the hope is the water kind of runs off of it.
Let's go to Acacia for more.
Well, we are still in a holding pattern here in the paddock area, and I'm told there is lightning about 1.5 miles away, and I caught up with our paddock judge, Patrick Davis, who guessed it could be about 3 or 4 minutes based off of his recent conversation with Braulio Baeza, steward, and it's all about the safety and making sure that it's clear for our equine and human athletes to head back out to the track. I have to say, so far, these fillies are handling themselves so classy right now, and you always wonder with the delay when horses are kind of stuck in a confined area and know that it's game time and wondering if they're going to head out yet. Everybody has been minding their P's and Q's so far, so hopefully that trend continues and hopefully we'll be able to head back to the track shortly, Greg.
All right, Acacia, thank you for that. So a holding pattern here as we get set for the 5th race coming up on this card. Track condition downgraded a little bit to good and sealed from fast to begin the day. We'll see if that continues, and hopefully just a storm that can quickly move through the area. We see that a lot up here.
Yeah, anybody that spent any amount of time in Saratoga knows this could miss us, this could blow by, this could be a few minutes, or it could turn into a longer deluge. I don't think we can really handicap what the weather's going to do. It's just such an unpredictable area.
Exactly. I'm a handicapper for races, not the weather, so hopefully things end up clearing up, and glad to have this happen now rather than later on in the card. Hopefully just get it over with.
And you see the tractors out doing their work on this track to keep it in optimal condition with this weather coming down. Coming up next, as you see on Big Fox, coverage for the Grade 2 Jim Dandy and this wide open 3-year-old picture. I don't know if we've ever seen as compact a field as we have in that race with so many intriguing storylines.
And again, it's going to be about, do the blinkers move Forte up, or do they give him the focus they're looking for? Does Saudi Crown, is he able to get the mile and an eighth? Is he going to take a step forward? I mean, there are so many possible scenarios here, and all of it depends on the horses. Who is developing, who's changing, who's improving at this period of time.
It's going to be fun. And by the way, you guys gave out selections for the Jim Dandy. Put you on the spot again for the Vanderbilt, real quick.
Well, I'm sticking with Forte. I like the two-year-old champion.
Vanderbilt.
Oh, the Vanderbilt Elite Power. I was on the fence. I was going back and forth, and then somebody a lot smarter than me and a much better handicapper showed me Thoroughgraph, and he's a standout.
Well, that's Greg,
Yeah.
not me for the Thoroughgraphs. I'm sticking with Gunite. I think he has a slight tactical edge. The rain doesn't bother me either, and I just think he'll be in front of his main competition.
He's so fun to watch. I mean, he just digs in and fights. It's going to be fun to see that rematch coming up in that Grade 1 and that older sprint division. That's it for us. Up next, coverage on Big Fox, Vanderbilt and Jim Dandy, Forte 2-year-old champ, making his return off that runner-up finish in the Belmont. He'll have the blinkers on. Angel of Empire, 3rd in the Kentucky Derby, part of that trio of runners for trainer Brad Cox. He'll also have the speedster and the new shooter on this 3-year-old scene, the likely leader of the race early, Saudi Crown. It's coming up next on Fox.
Catholic Boy, a Grade 1 winner on both dirt and turf, including this romp in the Run Happy Travers Stakes.
He's so impressive today, the others didn't even have a prayer!
This 6-time graded stakes winner was the fastest 3-year-old of his crop over 10 furlongs. Now his first runners are hitting the track. Dual surface Grade 1 winner Catholic Boy, standing at Claiborne Farm.
Now more than ever, it's time to get with the program. When shopping for your next race prospect, consider that New York breds start with an advantage. Our New York breds run for serious green. At Saratoga Race Meet, New York bred maidens run for up to $88,000. New York bred allowance horses run for up to $100,000. And New York bred owners can collect awards of up to $20,000 per horse per race. So get back with the program. Seriously.
Monmouth Park's summer season rolls on with live racing action Friday through Sunday. Fridays features a 2 p.m. first post, while weekend action begins at 12:40, kicking off the win early pick 5. Home to full, competitive fields and big paydays, Monmouth Park continues to prove itself as a place to profit. Joining us on site, be sure to lock in your odds with fixed odds wagering at Monmouth Park Racetrack.
Racetrack Television Network brings you every race, from every track, on every screen, every day. With monthly packages starting as low as $5, RTN gives you great value and access to more live HD streaming and race replays than anyone. Visit RTN.tv today to sign up and watch on almost any device, including Roku and Amazon Fire. RTN has packages that start at $5 per month.